Chapter 1257. The Path of the Immortal Emperor. Can I step onto the path of the Immortal Emperor? After a brief moment of excitement, Lu Hui thought of Yi Lan's explanation of the path of the Immortal Emperor and asked worriedly. The Immortal Emperor ruled the world and controlled the 9 heavens and 10 lands. The path of the Immortal Emperor was filled with countless geniuses, and only one could become an emperor. Of course you can. You are the reincarnation of the Immortal Emperor. The path of the Immortal Emperor is the path of your awakening. Why not? You don't have to worry about competing with Hao. The so-called Immortal Emperor in the legends is just a legend. What is the true mystery of the path of the Immortal Emperor? Where is the end? In countless years, no one has stepped into the Immortal Emperor realm. How could anyone know? Besides, even if you don't enter the path of the Immortal Emperor, you will continue to awaken as your cultivation increases until you step into the Immortal Emperor realm. Although the process may be very long, Yi Lan said. As long as it's not Brother Hao, it's fine. Senior, let's go. Let's go, let's go. Seventh Life shouted. But the great world of Xiandi, planet Dehua Academy. Did you hear? Last night, the Dehua Pavilion specially recruited a monstrous genius. Nonsense, such a monstrous genius has appeared. In the entire Dehua Academy, besides those who are in seclusion, those who are out training, and those who are in the immortal world, who doesn't know? Indeed, a potential value of 4,647 is a little scary. Plus, the Dehua Pavilion deliberately promoted it. It's a little hard not to know. Yeah, the monstrous geniuses in this batch of new students were all snatched away by the true Martial Pavilion. The Dehua Pavilion lost face. How could they not promote a monstrous genius that surpassed the Fart King? Okay, let's go quickly. We won't be able to see it if we're late. Okay, we have to see it. In the 10 pavilions of the Dehua Academy, Daoist Jingxian and the cultivators of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm were discussing in groups of 3 to 5 as they quickly flew toward the test center's pagoda monument. The reason was because of a piece of news that had shaken the entire academy. Last night, Dehua Pavilion had specially recruited an evildoer whose life could only be described as abnormal. He was an outsider who had just entered Dehua City and was tested to have a potential value of 4,647, which was a few hundred points higher than Fatty Li Yuan. However, just based on this potential value, the number 1 academy in the great world of Xiandi would fight over him. The Grand Pavilion announced to the public that this specially recruited monster would undergo a comprehensive assessment at noon today. Everyone knew that Dehua Pavilion had deliberately announced this in order to save face for this recruitment. However, it had to be said that it had really attracted everyone's attention. Brother Fatty, Brother Feng, Brother Guang, Fian. Big news. Big news. Last night, Dehua Pavilion specially recruited a terrifying monster with a potential value of 4,647 points. Hurry up and come out. The assessment is about to begin. Let's go take a look. Su Tao, In Su Su, and the others who were living in the palace area of the Daoist Golden Wonderland received the news not long after they left the immortal realm. They hurriedly ran over to inform Chen Hao and the others. There was no doubt that this was a big deal for them, especially for Fatty, Shui Fian, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian. What's his potential value? Ling Feng, who had the soaring Pegasus technique, was the first to come out and ask directly. 4647? Shui Fian's expression was full of surprise. How is that possible? Brother Fatty only has a little over 4,100 points. Ao Qian was equally shocked. It was also at this time that Chen Hao and Si Xian walked out of the temporary palace. However, what surprised everyone was that Fatty was not surprised at all. It's absolutely true. His potential value is 4,647. The entire academy is in an uproar. The dean and the other higher-ups have all gone to see that guy take the assessment. It's just potential value. It doesn't represent one's strength. What's there to be surprised about? Fatty said calmly. Brother Fatty, 4,647. How can his strength be weak with such a potential value? Let's go quickly. This guy is definitely one of the biggest obstacles to us competing for the seat of chief. The Hua Pavilion's public assessment, we have to take a good look. Ao Qian said. Let's go. Ling Feng was the first to step out. Chi. Soon after, Ao Qian, Shui Fian, Su Tao, In Su Su, and the others also rose into the air. Clearly, everyone wanted to see. The public assessment was exactly the same as the assessment when entering the academy. The only difference was that the cultivator assessment was open to everyone. As long as one went to the assessment center, they would be able to see every action of the cultivator assessment. To many people, this was undoubtedly the best opportunity to observe and learn. To the examinees, it was an opportunity to earn fame and fortune. Let's go, what are you waiting for? Si Xian transmitted her voice. But, damn it, this score is really hard to control. I feel like I only performed a little better. How is it 500 points higher? Chen Hao shrugged helplessly. With a swing of his butt, he pulled Si Xian and chased after Ling Feng. This was a very boring thing to do. What was there to see in watching one's own assessment? He couldn't dampen the mood of his brothers and sisters. Moreover, as Ao Qian said, it was obviously a strong competitor. It would be abnormal if he performed too calmly. Fuck, there are so many people. When Chen Hao and the others arrived at the assessment center, the entire square was filled with people. People squeezing, people on top of people, people below people, front and back, left and right. This was truly a fucking sea of people. There are too many people from the Dahua Pavilion. This is definitely a mandatory viewing, right? In Susu said. Look, the Dahua Pavilion's Pavilion Master, Vice Pavilion Master, and other higher-ups are all here. They even invited the Dean, Vice Dean, and the other 9 pavilions' Pavilion Masters, Vice Pavilion Masters, and teachers. In order to create momentum for one person, they used so much power. It seems like the Dahua Pavilion treats this specially recruited monster as a treasure. They will definitely nurture him with all their might. Su Tao said with a hint of shock. 46-47 points in the preliminary assessment, and he's someone who just stepped into the great world of Xiendi. It's very scary. At least it hasn't appeared in the Dahua Academy. For the Dahua Pavilion to be able to invite so many higher-ups to watch, it's not because of the Dahua Pavilion's reputation, but more because they want to see the performance of this monster genius. Shui Fian, who didn't speak much, suddenly transmitted her voice to the crowd. Brother, I want to see what kind of monster genius he is. Ling Feng said. The appearance of Chen Hao and the others undoubtedly attracted the attention of many people, just like Murong Chenhua, Xin Yuanchen, Tang Hu, and the others who had arrived earlier in the other direction. 4,647 points in the preliminary assessment. Brother, with such a result, even in the first academy, he can enter the top 100. Xian Yuanchen transmitted his voice. Potential value doesn't represent everything. Let's wait and see. If we can absorb him into our starlight, it's undoubtedly the best. Fatty and the others are here too. Don't let them beat us to it. Murong Chenhua said calmly. Thank you again, Brother Yutian and book friend 5131955352 for your support. Chapter 1258. Finally, when it was noon, a figure suddenly appeared on the huge display screen of the assessment center. Damn, isn't he too handsome? Handsome and unrestrained, elegant and graceful, a pear blossom overshadowing the begonia, loved by everyone, and blooming flowers. What surprised Ao Qian, Ling Feng, Shui Fian, Su Tao, and the others was that Fatty's eyes widened the moment he saw the video. Even though the video showed that this monstrous genius was indeed a little cold and handsome, it wasn't as exaggerated as what Fatty had said, right? Looking at the Fatty's shining eyes, Ao Qian, Ling Feng, and Su Tao could not help but have goosebumps. Damn, is this Fatty the type that kills both men and women? He's just a little bit worse than me. The Fatty finally said the last sentence that made everyone despise him. You can compare talent and strength, but you have the nerve to compare handsomeness? Among everyone, only Ao Qian, the skinny monkey, can compete with you. Yes, he is indeed very handsome. He's just a little bit worse than the Fatty and 10 streets worse than me. Whoosh. Ling Feng opened his folding fan and said with a serious and meticulous expression. So cool. Brother Feng, although I don't want to say it, I have to say that this monster genius is definitely on par with you. I'm talking about his appearance. Yin Susu could not help but say. Her eyes were glowing as she looked at the screen. He's not as flamboyant as Ling Feng, but he's cooler than Ling Feng. Susu, I'm not scolding you, but I'm just telling the truth, understand? He's one of us, so don't be reserved with him. Damn. Ling Feng cursed at Ao Qian. It's starting to. The fatty stepped between the two rivals. Beep. The moment the first test began, the young man in the image took out his token. His name, Qin Ritian, and his potential value were directly displayed on the huge screen. Originally, when they saw the appearance of this monstrous genius, it made the hearts of countless female disciples tremble. Although it wasn't as exaggerated as the fatty's praise, he was indeed handsome and suave. Especially that sharp and slightly cold expression of his, it was more in line with his monstrous potential value. At this time, when they saw the name of this monster genius, it caused even more shock. Motherfucker, how dare you shout? How arrogant! One look and I can tell he's a real man, a real man. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen someone with such an arrogant name. Especially when this name was paired with his cold expression and monstrous talent, it gave people the feeling that he was even more arrogant. Moreover, it was the kind of arrogance that he had the right to be. Si Xian secretly glared at Chen Hao. Even she did not expect that Chen Hao would use this name. Fortunately, he was now using Li Yuan and not Chen Hao. This little fellow is interesting. This old man is looking forward to seeing what his test results will be. Even the dean of the School of Chinese Arts and Sciences could not help but praise. Even though it was just an image, a person's temperament, eyes, and expression could usually be used to determine their strength. The young man in the image gave off a cold and arrogant feeling, and the depths of his eyes contained an endless murderous aura. This kind of person was definitely a ruthless person, and he definitely had the qualifications to look down on everyone in the same realm. Otherwise, he would definitely not have such a temperament. This was definitely not something that could be faked. Dean, since I invited you to watch, I naturally have the confidence to give you a surprise. Ritian, as long as we can keep him, it will definitely be the glory of our school. The pavilion master said. Let's see. An outsider who just entered the great world of Xiandi and was lucky enough to be accepted by us, but it will be difficult for him to stay for a long time. This is not a matter of whether the treatment is good or bad, but it's not impossible. Our school's luck seems to have changed. Fatty Li Yuan, Chen Si, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, Murong Chenhua, Shen Yuanshan, Tang Hu. Now, Chen Ritian, is it really a coincidence? Is it all because of the appearance of her disciple, Xuefian? The dean said. Perhaps they are related, but I don't think so. Xuefian might still be hiding something, but it should be very limited. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lost to Fatty Li Yuan Kai. After all, no one would be willing to lose to him. Yes, it's hard to predict. Anyway, it's a good thing for our school. Old man will try his best to keep them. Boom. Amidst the buzz of discussion, the cold and arrogant Chen Ritian began the first part of the basic test, the attack power test. His fist shone brightly and mysterious runes gathered on his fist. As he punched, the star core on the testing device lit up from bottom to top and finally stopped at 2190. Boom. Boom. Chen Ritian seemed to have seen the number before he attacked again. This time, he punched twice consecutively and it was 2250, 2300. Boom. Boom. Following that, Chen Ritian began to throw punches continuously. Initially, the 2190 attack power had already shocked everyone. Back then, Fatty's first 90-plus attacks only dealt around 2070. However, Chen Ritian's attack power was more than 100 to 200 higher than Fatty's. Now, what shocked everyone even more was that after the 3 punches that seemed to be probing attacks, the continuous attack power had all increased to 2,300. It was so accurate that there wasn't a single fluctuation. What kind of abnormal control did one have to be able to do that? Fatty, what are you doing? No one knew that Xian, who was equally shocked, asked him telepathically. Yesterday, I had an idea. I wanted to defy the heavens. So, I decided to defy the heavens without holding back. I wanted to shock the entire great transforming star and even the great world of Xiandi. Chenritin? I used this name when I was in ancient chaos. Others might not know, but how could my father not know? Besides, even if they don't know, just by looking at this name, my father, Master Han Mei, and my mother should be able to guess that it's me. Outsider Chen Ritian, strong massacre intent. 3 points is enough. Chen Hao said telepathically. So, you didn't make the potential value so high because you couldn't control it? Xian asked. I didn't control it well. There's no pattern to the potential value test. The difference between good and bad is too big, Chen Hao said. Oh, but it's a good idea to find Chen Wuliang, Han Mei, and Shui Mei. Xian agreed with Chen Hao's approach. As for whether it was high profile or not, it didn't matter. Anyway, it was Chen Hao's 8th life. His main body was in the dark and there wouldn't be any problems. Moreover, Chen Hao's 9 lives profound technique was very powerful. Unlike herself, it was very difficult for others to find out. Cough, cough, manners. Xian, do you know what manners are? You're my Dao companion now. How can you call my parents by their names? You're just a Dao companion in disguise. Do you really think it's real? Xian was slightly stunned. Chapter 1259. Unlike Chen Hao and Xian who were flirting with each other, Shui Fian, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Murong Qianhua's people were all anxious. Although it was still unknown how many times Chen Ritian's last attack would be, it was already amazing that he could continuously deal out 2,300 attack power. Coupled with his abnormal control, there was not even a single error. This made the group of monstrous geniuses feel immense pressure. Boom! When the 100th strike was unleashed, the entire tester shook violently. Star cores lit up from the bottom to the top at an astonishing speed. The onlookers widened their eyes and held their breaths. How strong would the strongest strike be? 15,000. 10,000? He has surpassed Fatty Li Yuan. 20,432. Whoosh! The final number, 20432, caused the crowd to explode. It broke the record of the Daoist Golden Wonderland of the University of Dahua. This wasn't just breaking the record of the preliminary test. It was the highest record of the Daoist Golden Wonderland. The significance was completely different. This meant that the strongest attack of all the disciples of the Daoist Golden Wonderland of the University of Dahua couldn't reach the height of Chen Ritian's 20432. Soon, the results were shown. The average attack of the 100th attack was 2,481. The strongest attack was 20432, which was more than 8 times the average attack. The final attack was 5 times the average attack, which was 8,684 points. It was amazing. Shui Fian, who had the highest attack, only had around 6,000 points. When the Pavilion Master of the Great Transformation Pavilion and the higher-ups of the Great Transformation Pavilion saw the surprised Dean and the other Pavilion Masters, they were in a good mood. The gloominess of the true Martial Pavilion being in the limelight during the recruitment was swept away. Although they couldn't get back the disciples who had chosen the true Martial Pavilion, they could at least vent their anger. How could the most talented disciple of the Dahua Academy not be in the Great Transformation Pavilion? The reason why they held the test with such fanfare and invited many higher-ups was to vent their anger. They wanted to prove and tell everyone that Chen Ritian's talent and potential were stronger. The most monstrous genius was still in the Great Transformation Pavilion. So handsome, so cool, so powerful. It would be great if I could become his cultivation partner. It's hard to meet such a monstrous genius even in the top academies, right? If nothing goes wrong, there will definitely be a place for him on the path of the Immortal Emperor in the future. It is said that he has just stepped into the great world of Xiandi. He will definitely become stronger after some time. Of course, even though the assessment has just begun, I can confirm that this is an extremely terrifying fellow. There will always be someone stronger than you. Chen Ritian is really strong. Originally, he thought that Fart King Li Yuan and Shui Fian would definitely become the first seat of the Grand Luo realm. Who would have thought that Chen Ritian would appear? Moreover, he was much stronger than the two of them. That's awesome. Buzzing sounds of discussion filled the entire square. Everyone was shocked by Chen Ritian's terrifying attack power. Even though this was only the beginning of the examination, with his abnormal potential value, he only needed one test to verify most of it. No matter how bad the later tests were, there would be a bottom line, and it wouldn't be too bad. Reality proved everyone's guess. None of Chen Ritian's subsequent tests were less shocking than his attack power. His speed surpassed Ling Feng's Pegasus Starry Sky art by 200 points, setting a new record. The endurance test activated the law of time and space 100 times. Even so, the spectators watched for more than 4 hours. Chen Ritian persisted for 20 days, breaking the highest record of the University of Dahua. As for the combat strength test, countless cultivators from the Daoist Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm were terrified. Even Ao Qian, Ling Feng, Shui Fian, Murong Qianhua, Xian Yuanshan, Tang Hu, and other top geniuses felt a chill down their spines. It was a crazy massacre, a massacre without any regard for the cost, a massacre with their lives on the line. Even though it was a simulated opponent, it felt 100% real, bloody, terrifying. It made everyone realize that Chen Ritian was definitely a cold-blooded and ruthless madman. At the same time, it also made everyone see Chen Ritian's abnormal recovery ability. If it wasn't for this, it would be impossible for him to fight in such a way. Brother Fatty, this guy's killing will is not inferior to your killing inheritance. It's too cold-blooded, too terrifying. He's simply a killing machine. What's more terrifying is that his recovery ability is so amazing. Damn, the feeling of reality is even more ruthless. When Chen Ritian broke the record of the University of Dahua's Daoist Golden Wonderland test and stepped out of the test center, Ao Qian, who was talking about Chen Ritian, felt Chen Ritian's real aura and immediately shuddered. What a cold guy. Ling Feng was similarly surprised. However, he was slightly startled after he finished speaking. His eyes immediately emitted an unusual glow that could not be detected. Immediately, he turned around abruptly and looked at Chen Hao. He transmitted his voice, "Fatty, he's the same kind of person. It's good that you know." Chen Hao was already mentally prepared and said to Ling Feng telepathically. Ling Feng also had the Eye Esper ability, which was also the ultimate form of the Great Change technique. When Chen Hao met him for the first time, they both saw through each other. The only difference was that Ling Feng couldn't see Fatty's real appearance. This was a problem with the Esper ability. Before Chen Hao let out Chen Ritian, which was the 8th life derived from his killing will, to join the University of Dahua, he naturally couldn't use his real appearance. After all, when he was in the combat strength testing tower, his glabella was exposed except for the killing will. Although he was mistakenly thought that the killing will had given birth to sentience, his real appearance was his real appearance. If Chen Ritian used his real appearance, he would definitely be recognized. Therefore, he could only use the ultimate form of the Great Change technique to disguise himself. It was not surprising that Ling Feng's Eye Esper ability could see through it. This guy is very strong. I can feel that his mind only has martial arts. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such a pure killing will and a unified aura. Competing with such a person will put a lot of pressure on us. Ling Feng said telepathically. What are you afraid of? If he dares to jump around in front of Lord Fatty, I'll just sit him to death. This is just a small University of Dahua. Look further. We have even stronger competitors in the top academies, the First Academy, and even the monstrous geniuses hidden in the First Academy like us. Fatty's fat face was brimming with confidence as he spoke telepathically. Fatty had to admit that if it weren't for the fact that he was in his 8th anima, he would have felt the same pressure as Ling Feng and Ao Qian if he saw other cultivators with such monstrous results. It couldn't be helped. The strength displayed by the 8th life represented Chen Hao's current peak strength. If there was anything that made Fatty's real body stronger than the 8th life, it would be that he had absolute control over his soul. This was the strongest life form that Chen Hao had derived in his strongest state. They had the same strength. Chapter 1260. Fatty, why aren't the two of you with us in the celestial realm? We've just joined the battle team and we need to get used to each other as soon as possible. It won't be too late for you to act alone then. Ling Feng said on the way back to the temporary palace. That's right, brother Fatty. It's just becoming Daoist Jingxian. With the comprehension of the heavenly Dao and the hundredfold space-time law, you'll be able to improve very quickly. You can do missions and get used to each other at the same time. There's nothing to lose. Ao Guang agreed with Ling Feng for the first time. Although Xue Fian did not say anything, she looked at Chen Hao and Si Xian with a questioning gaze. I wanted to accompany Cici. All right then, you're not allowed to bully me because my cultivation level is low. I'll go with you this time, but Cici has to cultivate in seclusion. She can't come with us. As you can see, Cici has to pay a lot for her life force. The space-time law and heavenly Dao law in the celestial realm are very useful to her. So sister-in-law has cultivated an ultimate technique that can increase her lifespan? Ao Guang said in surprise. Xue Fian looked at Si Xian with a hint of envy. Of course, she was not envious of Si Xian herself, but of Si Xian's ultimate technique that could increase her lifespan. With Si Xian's current life aura and appearance, since she hadn't consumed some kind of heaven-defying elixir, then she naturally cultivated an ultimate technique that allowed her to not age and greatly increase her lifespan. This was a fatal attraction to any woman. Si Xian knew that Chen Hao was covering for her, but she did not expect Chen Hao to use such an excuse. Si Xian blushed slightly. Age was nothing in the world of cultivation, and not many people paid attention to it. However, if one was much older, it would be a different story. It could be said that age had been Si Xian's biggest weakness ever since she stepped into the great world of Xiandi. Since that's the case, I won't force you. Fatty, you can do as you see fit. If you want to come with us, then come with us. If you want to accompany sister-in-law, then accompany her. I'm very easy to talk to as the team leader. Fuck. What team leader? It's just a matter of time. Why are you so excited? Fatty Bro's results are number 1. Naturally, Fatty Bro will be the team leader. Dao Chen said. The space of the immortal world is the space of the immortal world, and the outside world is the outside world. Monkey, you have to understand. Fatty shrugged nonchalantly and pulled Si Xian into their palace. Xue Fian did the same. Clearly, they were already used to Ling Feng and Ao Qian's arguments. After returning to the palace, Chen Hao and Si Xian couldn't wait to activate the Spirit Realm helmet. What made Chen Hao surprised was that, just like the first time he entered, he once again appeared between the auspicious clouds. The towering Immortal Palace was faintly discernible, as if it was close at hand, yet also as far away as the horizon. Chen Hao, I've discovered that you have a total of 4 source bodies. They're all in the great world of Xiandi. You're practicing the 9 lives profound technique, aren't you? His comprehension was quite deep. As far as he was concerned, it was second only to the Celestial River King. I need your opinion on where they were born. Is it Earth or the great world of Xiandi? You can choose. As the heavenly music sounded, a familiar and pleasant voice floated into Chen Hao's ears. You can even discover this? Of course, in the space of the immortal realm, nothing can be hidden from me. Previously, the situation that Yi Lan of Ancient Chaos told you about wasn't too accurate. Ancient Chaos has already recovered its original supreme heavenly Dao laws. Also, there are countless cultivators here. All the facilities naturally have to be rebuilt in Ancient Chaos. As for Earth, although it has been maintaining the supreme heavenly Dao, it's in a condensed state. Moreover, there's no one else except you, a cultivator. It's too wasteful to rebuild the facilities. I'll just play with you. You're monitoring our communication? I can't help it. Who asked you to be the only cultivator on Earth? I'm very curious. Chen Hao cursed in his heart. This is too unethical, right? Even if you're monitoring, you have to pretend that you don't know. A GM should have the awareness and professional integrity of a GM. How can you do this? What's worse is that you want to play with me. You want me to play with you? Can you not be so human? Especially when your voice is so fucking pleasant to listen to. How are you going to play with me? Chen Hao couldn't help but ask. It's very simple. You can treat me as a multifunctional facility. Whatever the great world of Xiandi has, I can provide it to you. Of course, the conditions are the same as the great world of Xiandi. Oh, okay, hurry up and tell me, where are your other lives? They are the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th lives. If they come over, they'll annoy me to death. The great world of Xiandi. In the future, my 2nd and 8th lives will be immortal emperors. My 7th life is in ancient chaos. When the time comes, I'll be in ancient chaos. Okay, that's not a problem. Also, the life origin imprint is yours, and the communication number is based on the life origin. Therefore, your communication number is the same. However, just like the outside world, your original body is the absolute controller. Therefore, you can set it yourself. Whether it's connected or one-way, etc. You can do that? That's great. I've been having a headache. I still have to go through a transfer. That's too troublesome. Chen Hao was surprised. Originally, he'd wanted Chen Ritian to disguise himself in the immortal realm and join the Carnage Battle Squad. That would have been fine, but it would have been very troublesome. This was because he'd already given his communication number to Su Tao and the others. When the time came, they'd have to go through his original body to contact the 8th life. Although this could be done in a matter of minutes, if Chen Hao's original body was on Earth, it would have been inconvenient. He'd have to act in concert with the 8th life. But now, hearing the words of the NPC solved this problem. Chen Hao, there's something I need to tell you. You must keep my existence a secret, because in the entire immortal realm, only you can enjoy the treatment of me personally serving you. Aren't you a system NPC? Chen Hao asked in surprise. In Chen Hao's opinion, although this voice was a bit human, it was definitely an NPC. After all, every cultivator would encounter one. It couldn't be that he was the only one special. NPC, is that what you call it in the game on Earth? Chen Hao, you're so cute. This is the immortal realm, the boundless starry sky, the only way to embark on the path to becoming an immortal emperor. Every blade of grass, every tree, every grain of sand, every rock, they're all real existences. Of course, you'll only understand this after your Yang spirit and Yin spirit combine. As for me, I'm great. It won't be too late to tell you when you have the chance to meet me. For now, I can tell you my name. My surname is Yang, and my name is Lu Yen. Chapter 1261. Yang Lin. Chen Hao repeated, feeling that this name was a little strange. Yang is my father's surname, and Lu is my mother's surname. Is it strange? Yang Lin seemed to see through Chen Hao, and her pleasant voice sounded again. It is indeed a little strange, but since your parents' surnames are Yang and Lu are normal. Graceful Yang Lu, Yen, smart and beautiful, not bad. I say, student Yang Lin, although I am the only cultivator on Earth, which makes you very curious, shouldn't you also have a limit? Chen Hao said. He didn't feel anything about the name Yang Luyan at all. It was just an ordinary name. What do you mean? It's fine if you read all my memories, but now there's no need to monitor my heart in real time. Don't you think it's boring? Besides, I can't control what I think. It's hard to guarantee that I won't have any unhealthy thoughts. Chen Hao said. No, when did I monitor your heart? Besides, I can't read all your memories at will. I'm not that bored. What I know is the most basic information about your birth and cultivation. Then why do you seem to be very familiar with Earth? Chen Hao asked hurriedly when he heard Yang Liuyen's words. Although he knew that his question was idiotic, after all, how could the existence in the immortal realm not know the situation on Earth? Although he was the only cultivator on Earth in the immortal realm, it didn't mean that there weren't any cultivators on Earth before. It was not strange that she was familiar with Earth, or the current Earth. Perhaps the immortal realm itself could monitor the connected upper-class world at any time. However, Chen Hao still asked this. His purpose was very simple. He just wanted to get some information about Earth from Yang Liuyan's mouth. What am I not familiar with? Although I wasn't born on Earth, I was born on Earth like you and stayed on Earth for many years. What's so strange about that? No way, Chen Hao said in surprise. Immediately, his fat face revealed an extremely excited expression. He said, fellow countrymen, Student Yang Lin, we are actually fellow countrymen. This is great, Hee hee. Chen Hao, you are so fake. Do you want to know the secrets of Earth, or do you want to find the way to Earth? Yang Lin chuckled and said directly. Chen Hao suddenly showed a trace of embarrassment. His acting skills were first class. How could he be seen through at a glance? What was even worse was that Yang Lin had directly hit the nail on the head. This made Chen Hao wonder if the other party was monitoring his thoughts. Unfortunately, I don't know much about Earth's current situation, so I can't tell you. As for the way back to Earth, I know, but it's useless to tell you. With your current ability, it's impossible for you to reach the boundless starry sky and thousands of galaxies. When the Yang Spirit and the Yang Spirit become one, you will embark on the path of the Immortal Emperor, open the gate of the immortal world, and enter the real immortal world. At that time, it will be very simple to go to Earth. This should be your only way, because only the immortal world has the Milky Way tunnel to Earth. Yang Liuyan continued. Although there was no exact answer that Chen Hao wanted, the information contained was already a lot for Chen Hao. After frowning slightly and muttering to himself, Chen Hao asked, below the Immortal Emperor realm, such as the powerful true Immortal King, can't open the Milky Way tunnel to return to Earth? Even the Immortal Emperor can't, let alone the true Immortal King. The distance between the endless galaxies is really far. Secondly, Earth is different from ancient chaos and the great world of Xiandi. It is one-way isolated from the starry sky. As you can see, the boundless world is condensed on Earth, and the surface of Earth is an absolute secular world, just like the age of chaos and the nirvana space. Moreover, it is only a little bit big, and no one can lock its position. Only by entering the boundless world condensed on Earth can one truly connect to the starry sky. However, this is one way. In other words, you can locate the starry sky in the boundless world of Earth, but in the starry sky, because of the shielding of Earth itself, you can't locate Earth. This is also different from ancient chaos and the Immortal Emperor. Therefore, not everyone can open the Milky Way tunnel to Earth. Well, student Chen Hao, this is all I can tell you. Moreover, I only told you about the immortal world. Although it's not much, I can't tell others. The reason I told you is because we are from the same hometown. Moreover, you have fused with a mutated soul, so it shouldn't be a big problem for you to step on the path of the Immortal Emperor, so there's no harm in telling you. Now, I'll give you a description of all the facilities in the great world of Xiandi in the immortal world. If you need anything, as long as you meet the requirements, you can apply for it from me. Buzz. Yang Lin hadn't said so much for a long time. Although the content she said was irrelevant, she had never mentioned it to anyone in the immortal world. To put it bluntly, there was no one who had enjoyed Chen Hao's treatment. To be precise, for all the cultivators, the controller of the immortal world was a mysterious, aloof, and emotionless existence. Just as Yang Liuyan said, Chen Hao had benefited from the fact that he was from the same hometown and had fused with a mutated soul. How long had it been since a cultivator from Earth appeared in the immortal world? It could only be described as endless years. Yang Liuyan, who was also from Earth, received the information that Chen Hao was from Earth. How could she not be surprised? However, what Yang Liuyan was most curious about was Chen Hao's fusion with a mutated soul. She was looking forward to it. Because, phew. After Chen Hao quickly finished reading the information sent by Yang Liuyan, he let out a long breath and said, "What an abnormal space." However, this also shows that the immortal world is not as simple as a second world. It can swallow the spiritual objects of the real world to maintain its operation and also feed back to the greater thousand world. It's really incredible. Yang Liuyan's information was an introduction and explanation of the various facilities in the great world of Xiandi. As long as Chen Hao met the conditions, Yang Luyan could satisfy him alone in the greater thousand world on earth. However, the so-called conditions were very vulgar. In Chen Hao's view, they were absolutely vulgar and realistic to the extreme. Money. Of course, the so-called money for cultivators was spiritual objects of the world, natural treasures, magic treasures, and other things that were valuable to cultivators. However, any spiritual objects of the world and magic treasures here were calculated by the amount of energy they contained, and the spiritual energy of the world contained in a celestial core crystal was the unit of measurement. If cultivators needed some kind of cultivation facilities, they had to integrate enough spiritual objects of the world or celestial core crystals into the space contained in the spiritual helmet when they entered the immortal world. In this way, they would be swallowed by the immortal world. Part of them would be used to maintain the operation of the immortal world, and the other part would be fed back to the greater thousand world where the cultivator belonged. Of course, the greater thousand world mentioned here could only be the great world of Xiandi, Earth, and the greater thousand world of ancient chaos, which were connected to the immortal world. An outsider like Ling Feng was naturally a cultivator of the great world of Xiandi. Chen Hao, who was from Earth, and Si Xian, who was from ancient chaos, were beyond the scope of the great world of Xiandi. The spiritual objects of the world they consumed were also fed back to Earth and ancient chaos. Chapter 1262. The great world of Xiandi is getting stronger and stronger. It's definitely related to its openness to the greater thousand worlds. The spiritual items and dharma treasures brought by an outsider to the great world of Xiandi, as well as the energy contained in the realm of the outsider, are all treasures. Coupled with the increasing popularity, it's hard not to be strong. Chen Hao said in a low voice. At this moment, the voice of a message rang out in Chen Hao's mind again. His consciousness merged into it. It turned out that Yang Luyan had successfully connected the communication numbers of Chen Hao's third anima, fourth anima from the Tao manifestation Immortal fruit tree, fifth anima from the Tree of Life, and sixth anima from the Spirit Spring Sea. Alright, you can check their information at any time. As for whether you want them to know of your existence, that's up to you. If there's no problem, you can go in. Yang Luyan said. If I want to contact you, I don't have to exit the immortal world space and enter again, right? Chen Hao asked. Of course not. Send a system message and I'll appear. What about a battle team? I'm the only one on Earth. I can't possibly form a battle team by myself, right? A battle team is a requirement. There's no other way. However, if you're the only one, it's just a battle team. The number of people in the battle team also determines the number and difficulty of the missions. It won't affect you much. The real use is that after stepping on the path to becoming an immortal emperor, it'll be safer to have a battle team to look after each other. Although lone rangers are rare on the path to becoming an immortal emperor, there are still some. You don't have to worry about that. Moreover, on the path to becoming an immortal emperor, your other lives can join you. Of course, the prerequisite is that your other lives are also qualified to enter the path to becoming an immortal emperor. I see. Any other questions? Not for the time being. Then goodbye. I'll send you in. Buzz. As Yang Lin spoke, Chen Hao disappeared from the ethereal state of stillness in the void and descended into the greater thousand world that was condensed on Earth in the space of the immortal world. This was also the place where he had left from the last time. Through the communication number, Chen Hao learned about the situation of the four great beings who had already entered the great cosmos. The four of them were all born in one of the 3,000 main planets. They were all different from each other, and there was no connection between them. Similarly, Chen Hao did not know which city in the great world of Xiandi they had landed in. However, the four great beings had one thing in common that made Chen Hao's original body feel ashamed. They had all entered the top academy in such a high-profile manner. The second life condensed from the power of faith had yet to appear, and Chen Hao did not know what the situation was like. However, as long as the second life entered the immortal realm, Yang Luyan would set its communication number under his name, so there was nothing to worry about. Because I became the controller of the ancient chaos, The power of faith in the second life must have soared very quickly. His battle strength is probably the fastest among the four great beings. Could it be that he went to the first academy? Chen Hao thought to himself. Very likely. This guy is proud and arrogant. He robbed me of my love and got Lu Qian. He doesn't care much about his parents in the Sky River sector. He's also the most ambitious. Whatever, when the time comes, Wang Lin. After checking the situation of the four great beings, Chen Hao thought of the second life. He suddenly slapped his head and almost jumped up. Why didn't I think of asking Yang Luyen about my parents? Beep beep beep. Without any hesitation, Chen Hao sent a system message to Yang Luyen. Chen Hao, how can I help you? A moment later, Yang Luyen picked up the call. However, this time, although Yang Luoyen's voice was still pleasant to the ears, it had lost its original emotional tone. It gave Chen Hao the feeling that she was very mechanical and dull, but this time, she was more like a system NPC. Student Yang Luyen, my dear fellow countrymen, can I ask you about 3 people? Yang Luoyen's mechanical voice sounded. I definitely won't harm other people's interests. The people I want to ask about are my parents in the ancient chaos. My master's real name is Chen Hao. My father, my mother, Xuemei, the parents who raised me, and my master, Han Mei. They entered the great world of Xian Di before me. Chen Hao said, Sorry, I can't give you information about other cultivators. Is there anything else? Cough cough. I say, fellow countrymen, can you give me some face? If there are no other questions, goodbye. After Yang Luyen finished speaking, she directly disconnected the communication link with Chen Hao. Why does she seem like a completely different person? Chen Hao frowned slightly. Could it be that this is a set of mechanical answers? And the ones I met when I entered the immortal realm space were the real ones with spiritual intelligence? Chen Hao thought to himself. It should be. Forget it, I'll ask again when I enter the immortal realm space. Let's officially start the cultivation in the immortal realm space. Chen Hao's body swayed and suddenly turned into a stream of light. At the same time, his mind was completely open. In the immortal realm space, in the greater thousand world of Earth, which had been silent for countless years, Chen Hao's arrival opened a new chapter. According to the information obtained by Chen Hao, the Greater Thousand World in the immortal realm space was a replica of the real Greater Thousand World. The only difference was that the number of cultivators was different. After all, only a small number of cultivators could enter the immortal realm space. At the very least, only cultivators of the Daoist Golden Wonderland and above were qualified to enter the immortal realm space. Phew, this is the real Earth. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth may not be as good as the situation in the immortal realm space but the laws of heaven are definitely not worse than that of the great world of Xiandi. From Yang Luoyen's tone, it seems that earth is still above the great world of Xiandi and the greater thousand world of Xiandi. And she was born on earth and is in charge of the immortal realm space. This is enough to show that earth is stronger, right? Chen Hao thought to himself as he flew quickly and sized up the real Earth. After flying continuously for several days, Chen Hao suddenly landed on a mountain peak and sat down cross-legged after feeling the changes in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Phew! The laws of space and time are 100 times stronger. I can cultivate in seclusion for half a year. Finally, it's a little quieter. Chen Hao slowly closed his eyes and merged his mind with heaven and earth. He began his first meditation in the immortal realm space. The first thing Chen Hao had to do was to raise his realm from the initial stage of the Daoist Golden Wonderland to the same level as the outside world. Only in this way could the resonance between the cultivation in the immortal realm space and the cultivation in the real world be the strongest. According to the information that Chen Hao had learned, the situation in the real world and the immortal realm space had to be the same. Only then could the cultivation in the two sides promote and integrate with each other to achieve the best results. Moreover, the main thing was to use the immortal realm space to drive the outside world. Otherwise, with the 100,000 years limit on the path of the immortal emperor, it would be very difficult for even a heaven-defying genius like Chen Hao to advance to the seventh heaven of the cutting path true immortal. Chapter 1263. Beep beep beep. Not long after Qianhao's original body began to meditate, he was once again interrupted by a system notification. It turned out that the 8th anima had just entered the immortal realm. Qianhao, who had already thought of what to do, directly connected his communication authority to the 8th anima and entered a meditative state again. The 8th anima, Qin Ritian, used his original body's name and image to contact Su Tao, Ao Qian, Ling Feng, and the others to meet in the immortal realm. Since then, Ao Qian, Ling Feng, Xuefian, and the 8th anima began their journey in the immortal realm. None of them realized that the fatty beside them was not the real fatty, but Qin Ritian, who brought them great pressure. 2 days later, the true martial pavilion's palace for Qianhao and the others was completed. Qianhao, Xuefian, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian, the 4 from the Daoist Golden Wonderland, were in the core area of the true martial pavilion's Daoist Golden Wonderland area. The 4 of them moved in immediately. As for Si Xian from the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, she went to the area of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm alone. There was no other way. Only a fool would not use a palace that was suitable for their level. They couldn't just live together and forego the treatment they deserved. What's more, even if the 2 of them lived together, they would cultivate separately. They couldn't do anything they wanted. There was no need to waste the treatment of the top 10 in the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. However, what annoyed Si Xian was that her palace was right next to Murong Qianhua's. Fortunately, no one could enter a cultivator's palace without the owner's permission. It wouldn't affect anything, but it would make her feel a little disgusted. Chi. Oh. What a comfortable aura. The great world of Xiandi, so good, I like it so much. Fuck. Damn pervert, don't moan like that, okay? Why do you care if I like it? In the Immortal Emperor's Great Thousand World on the Great Qian Star, which was also one of the 3,000 main stars like the Great Transforming Star, the void was suddenly torn apart by more than 10 figures holding hands. Outsiders. Clearly, they were like Qianhao and Si Xian in the past. They did not go through the proper channels. Instead, they intruded into the great world of Xiandi. If Qianhao was here and heard the first person's voice, he would have goosebumps all over his body. Among these people, Qianhao knew 10 of them. They were the 9 great evildoers of the chaotic vast thousand world: Zhou Qinglong, Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, Yin Xian's Taoist companion, Xian Na, and so on. In addition to these 10 people, the auras of the extra few men and women were clearly weaker than the 10 people. We're finally here. This is the legendary The Great World of Xiandi, the most powerful world. It really lives up to its name. Just the aura alone is not comparable to our chaotic world. Yin Xian took a deep breath and said excitedly, "Yes, this is still in the wilderness. There are even more powerful cities in the city. I'm really looking forward to it." Xiang Tiange said, "Although we're looking forward to it, we still have to be cautious. The great world of Xiandi is full of geniuses. According to the controller, with our current strength, we can barely enter the top academies. This is all thanks to Brother Qin. Little White, I miss him so much. We were delayed for such a long time because of the 3 celestial sutras and unique skills that he taught us. Maybe he has already arrived at the great world of Xiandi? As long as he's here and has already refined the seed of life given to him, it'll be very easy for me to find him," Zhou Qinglong said with a smug look on his face. At this moment, he was already at the peak of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. He was countless times stronger than when he was in the Hongmeng domain. However, this damn pervert's disgusting appearance had not changed at all. That's not possible. He was not even at the peak of the Daoist Golden Wonderland. Moreover, he returned to their vast world through his brother, Itoda. He shouldn't be as fast as us. Don't forget that the space-time laws of each vast world are different. To be able to give birth to such a monstrous genius like Brother Qin, the space-time laws of the vast world are either much slower or much faster than ours. Is he here or not? The damn pervert can summon him as often as he wants. Of course. However, he can only sense the aura of the tree of life of the same origin if he is on the same main planet. If Little White is on another planet, he won't be able to sense him for the time being. However, Didn't the controllers say that a monstrous genius like Little White will shine even in the great world of Xiandi? If he is here, even if we are not on the same main planet, we will still be able to hear about him. It will be enough to wait for the Academy ranking tournament that is held once in 1,000 years. Yes, that is indeed the case. If we can find Brother Chen, we have to help Nguyen Tan Lan no matter what. She is too pitiful. Of course. Yes, although Brother Chen only asked us to secretly help Nguyen Tan Lan and not reveal any information about him, it also shows that he is not completely heartless. I'm afraid the biggest reason is that from his point of view, we will never meet again. That's why he did that. Even he probably would not have thought that he left a brand in Nguyen Tan Lan's soul origin, the root of love. Nguyen Tan Lan, the woman Chen Hao's third life, the woman who Chen Hao could not forget. She was a woman who was truly and completely possessed by Chen Hao. Back then, the third life that gave birth to spiritual wisdom in the demonic realm was like a newborn child. The first person it came in contact with, accepted, and acknowledged was Nguyen Tan Lan. After shattering Nguyen Tan Lan's spiritual palace in an unconscious state, Chen Hao's spiritual wisdom awakened. He used the fusion of yin and yang to save Nguyen Tan Lan. This also made Nguyen Tan Lan the second woman after Tantai Lien, who was forced to become Chen Hao's woman. However, from the beginning to the end, Chen Hao did not say a word to Nguyen Tan Lan until he left. He originally thought that it was just an exchange of benefits, but what was the truth? The master of the immortal scripture's sacred land, which was also the master of the vast thousand chaotic worlds, had used the supreme law to seal the heart demons and emotional demons that had disturbed Nguyen Tan Lan many times in order to let Nguyen Tan Lan, who had obtained Chen Hao's countless supreme techniques, grow without distractions. However, Nguyen Tan Lan of the Daoist Golden Wonderland was able to break through the seal time and time again with the root of love in her soul origin. Trapped by love, she had fallen into a demonic barrier. It had to be said that Chen Hao had underestimated the influence of great luck in love. Similarly, Chen Hao and Nguyen Tan Lan had also underestimated the position of the primordial yin body in her heart. I hope she can step out of the Hongmeng region. Otherwise, even if we bring Brother Chen back, there's no other way. In the demonic barrier, no one can help her. She can only rely on herself. Buzz. On the Great Qian Star, in the top academy independent of the 10 major cities, the Red Cloud Academy, a figure who was sitting cross-legged in the palace and exuding endless vitality suddenly woke up from his meditation. He looked at the void in surprise. He was handsome, with 5 parts gentle and 5 parts masculine. If not for the Daoist robe and aura on his body that proved that he was a man, it would be difficult to distinguish his gender based on his appearance alone. This person was none other than Chen Hao's 5th life, the Tree of Life. Same aura. Could it be the perverted Zhou Qinglong? Chapter 1264. Chen Hao's 5th life was derived from the seed of the Tree of Life that Zhou Qinglong had given him. Not only did it give the 5th life the same abnormal vitality as Zhou Qinglong, but it was also influenced by Zhou Qinglong's personality. In addition, the 5th life had also fused with the attributes of the Tao manifestation Immortal fruit tree and the spirit Spring Sea. It had undergone a certain mutation and was somewhat different from Zhou Qinglong's pure spiritual intelligence derived from the Tree of Life. It could no longer be considered a pure Tree of Life. However, no matter what, it could not change the fact that it was inherited from Zhou Qinglong's life essence. In addition, Chen Hao's 5th life was also derived from his original body at its peak state. It had all the abilities that his original body had when it was derived. Naturally, his super strong soul perception was not a problem. Therefore, he who was in a state of cultivation could easily sense the aura of the same origin between heaven and earth. It must be. After carefully sensing for a moment, the 5th life said with great certainty in his heart when the other party also urged the special connection of the origin to connect with him. Little White. Dear, I sensed Little White. It can't be, right? Pervert, are you for real? When have I ever lied to you, Little Xianxian? Little White sensed me first. Quick, follow me. Zhou Qinglong twisted his butt and took the lead to speed up. Let's go. We haven't seen each other for many years. Brother Chen should have already stepped into Hongmeng. When we meet again, we must learn from each other. That's right. However, we should say learn from each other. The controller said that Brother Chen's talent is probably unimaginable to us. Otherwise, he wouldn't have passed the level in advance in the sacred land of the immortal scriptures and passed it on to us. If it weren't for Brother Chen, we wouldn't even dare to think about entering a top academy. But now, we have a lot of hope. Under Zhou Qinglong's lead, the group quickly headed in a certain direction. At the same time, Chen Hao's fifth anima, alias Chen Shusheng, emerged from his palace and headed in the direction of Zhou Qinglong. The fifth life originated from Zhou Qinglong. Although he had no feelings for him, being able to see life forms of the same origin was something that made him excited. Moreover, he had all the memories of Chen Hao's experiences in the vast thousand chaotic worlds, so he also wanted to see these old friends. He especially wanted to know if Nguyen Tan Lan, whom his original body wanted to see the most in the third life, was with Zhou Qinglong and the others. There was no other way. Chen Hao had several lives. When they were together with Chen Hao's original body, they would compete, refuse to accept it, and want to take the absolute lead. But after they were separated, what Chen Hao's original body cared about was what they cared about. What the original body wanted to do was what they wanted to do. In the blink of an eye, Chen Hao, who was immersed in cultivation in the immortal realm, had been in closed-door cultivation for more than 200 days. About 7 days had passed in the outside world. A new batch, a new day. The contribution points of the comprehensive ranking list of the Dahua Academy had finally been reset to 0. The ranking of the cultivators had also changed quite a bit. This was something that couldn't be helped. Contribution points, under the circumstances where the disparity in strength wasn't too great, relied on the time and energy that the cultivator had put in. The more tasks one completed, the more contribution points one would receive, and the higher the comprehensive ranking would be. Therefore, the ranking that appeared immediately after the contribution points were reset was the true ranking of strength. On this day, early in the morning, countless cultivators had gathered in the huge square outside the assessment center. Everyone knew that from today onwards, there would be a month's time for the initial ranking to be adjusted. It was also time for cultivators to retake the assessment or challenge cultivators with higher rankings. After this month, not everyone would agree to an unconditional challenge. This would also be the busiest month for the two lower realms, Daoist Jingxian and Hongmeng Supreme. This was because most of the challenges occurred among the newly promoted Daoist Jingxian and Hongmeng Supreme. A few days ago, the news that Murong Qianhua, Xin Yuanshan, and Tang who were going to challenge the top 10 experts in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm spread. This was undoubtedly something that the cultivators in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm were looking forward to. Similarly, in the Daoist Golden Wonderland, the most abnormal existence, Chen Ritian, would become the #1 existence in the Daoist Golden Wonderland as long as his contribution points were reset to 0 based on the results of the assessment. It was obvious that the chief disciple among the seniors would not be willing to lose the title of chief disciple just like that. Challenges were inevitable. In addition, Fart King Li Yuan and Ice Queen Xue Fian were also in the top 10. Little Wind King, Fan Prince Ling Feng, and Little Monkey King Ao Guang were also in the top 10. The possibility of them being challenged was too high. Ritian, after this reset, you will be the chief disciple of the Daoist Golden Wonderland. No matter what, do your best to keep this title. This is the chief disciple of the Daoist Golden Wonderland of the Dahua Institute. In Chen Ritian's palace in the Dahua Pavilion, the pavilion master of the Dahua Pavilion actually came personally and said to Chen Ritian, "This disciple will do his best," Chen Ritian said coldly without any fluctuation in his emotions. "I don't want you to do your best. I want you to announce in a high-profile manner that you welcome any expert in the Daoist Golden Wonderland to challenge you and create the momentum of an invincible expert. Pavilion Master, I only have cultivation in my heart. Do whatever you want to do. When the time comes for a battle, I will fight. I don't care about anything else." Chen Ritian frowned slightly and said directly. He did not give the Pavilion Master of the Dahua Pavilion much face. However, the pavilion master of the Dahua Pavilion did not care at all. He liked such an emotionless or inhumane martial arts fanatic even more. Alright, you just have to fight with all your might. I will arrange everything. After the pavilion master of the Dahua Pavilion finished speaking, he disappeared from the palace. Originally, the chief disciple of the Daoist Golden Wonderland was also a disciple of the Dahua Pavilion and was his direct disciple. However, this time, the pavilion master of the Dahua Pavilion wanted to promote Qin Ritian. According to his estimation, only the original chief disciple, who was also his direct disciple, could defeat Qin Ritian. Therefore, he only had to do his disciple's job. This was very simple. This was because his disciple should have gone to the Hongmeng domain to be promoted to the supreme of Hongmeng long ago. In order to maintain the position of the chief disciple of the Daoist Golden Wonderland in the Dahua Pavilion, he delayed it. And now, Qin Ritian's appearance was a form of relief for his lineal disciple. Little fatty. Pavilion master, what brings you here today? Quick, have a seat. There's no need to sit. I hope I didn't disturb your cultivation? No. My contribution points are 0 today. Isn't there a good show to watch? I just left the divine realm space, Chen Hao said. Oh, that's good. I'm also here for this matter. Little fatty, after the contribution points have been cleared to 0, you're ranked 7th. Xue Fian has also entered the top 10. Ling Feng has 43 points and Ao Qian has over 100 points. You're all the most monstrous existences in this batch. As for you and Xue Fian, you're ranked in the top 10. Although you didn't occupy the real top 10 palaces, because of the Great Transformation Pavilion, I'm afraid you'll face challenges. Chapter 1265. Pavilion Master, do you mean that Dahua Pavilion will let their disciples challenge us? Chen Hao frowned slightly. The Great Transformation Pavilion will definitely do so. In this year's recruitment, the limelight has been taken by our true martial pavilion. A few days ago, the Great Transformation Pavilion specially recruited the monstrous genius, Qin Ritian, caused such a huge commotion. The Great Transformation Pavilion wanted to vent their anger. Now that Qin Ritian is ranked first, if nothing goes wrong, the Great Transformation Pavilion will definitely support him to maintain his first place and become the Great Luo Golden Immortal Stage head disciple of the Great Transformation Academy. You, Xue Fian, Ling Feng, and Ao Qian didn't choose them, so you will definitely be Qin Ritian's strongest competitors in the future. With Dahua Pavilion's Pavilion Master's breadth of mind, it would be strange if he didn't teach you a lesson. In addition, your performances are already very famous in Dahua Academy. To be able to step on you guys is undoubtedly a good opportunity to earn fame and fortune. Therefore, some of the stronger seniors in the rankings will probably challenge you guys, especially you. So it's like that. The tree wants to be quiet, but the wind won't stop. Since that's the case, then let's fight. It seems that it's quite difficult to cultivate in peace for the next 10 years. Chen Hao said, Yes, that's right. After all, you guys are just the results of the assessment. You don't have the influence of a real battle. Fighting is also a good way to improve. As for these 10 years, the academy won't give you any time to meditate. It's filled with training halls, but it's very important to study. Especially the compulsory classes of the academy and our true martial pavilion. They're all very important to you. Sharpening the axe won't delay the work of chopping wood. 10 years is nothing to us cultivators. That's true. All right, Pavilion Master, don't worry about this. I can't guarantee anything else, but I, Fatty, am ranked 7th. I can only move forward and not back down. No one can even dream of shaking me. Chen Hao said boldly as he patted his chest. Good. With your words, I'm relieved. Challenge us? Mentally prepared? Pavilion Master, I still plan to challenge the top 10. These days, it's impossible not to be high profile. You don't have to worry. I, Ling Feng, will definitely charge into the top 10. As for the chief disciple, there's no rush. I can't be too high profile. It's better to do it step by step. If you can't, then you can't. Why are you looking for an excuse? Ao Qian looked at Ling Feng with disdain. Then he looked at the pavilion master and said, "Pavilion master, I'm the same. Top 10 is a must. I really didn't expect the competition in our academy to be so intense. I originally wanted to keep a low profile, but even the heavens dared to fuck the heavens. Cough cough. In short, flipping out is a must." When Mo Shilin, the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, came out of Chen Hao's palace, he coincidentally bumped into Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and Xue Fian, who had just stepped out of the palace. Mo Shilin had only said one sentence when Ling Feng and Ao Qian spoke one after another. Xue Fian nodded slightly at Mo Shilin as well. The sharpness in her eyes made her stance clear. Numerous figures quickly gathered in the square of the testing center. The Daoist Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm had arrived at their respective territories. They were looking at the gigantic ranking list on the pagoda stele and the high-level arena that was floating in the void beside it. Other than the cultivators of the two realms, there were also many teachers from the University of Dahua and various pavilions. Even the pavilion master, vice pavilion master, and the higher-ups of the academy were present. At this moment, countless cultivators were queuing up to take the test again. However, even more cultivators had gathered in front of the arenas of their respective realms. Chen Hao, Xue Fian, Ling Feng, Ao Qian, and the 5 people who had joined up with Qi Xue arrived at lightning speed. Xi Xian's ranking in the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm was not even close to the top. No one would challenge her at all. But those who had the qualifications to challenge at this time were only the top 100 contestants, and the top 100 contestants of the entire academy. Even Wan Yixue, who was ranked in the top 200 before his contribution points hit 0, barely had the qualifications to challenge the top 100 contestants. For those who were ranked lower, even if there were no rules, no one would come out at this time to make a fool of themselves. Therefore, Xi Xian did not even come over. She was still immersed in her cultivation in the immortal realm. As soon as Chen Hao and the others landed, they caused a commotion among the cultivators around them. Right at this moment, a figure suddenly flashed over and arrived before Chen Hao and the others. "Yo, isn't this senior sister Yixue? No, I should call you junior sister. Hee, Sister Xue, long time no see. I've missed you. Do you miss me too?" Chen Hao was slightly stunned and spoke first. Wan Yixue's already ugly face suddenly became even angrier. She said, "Damn fatty, I'm here to tell you that I want to challenge you." "Sister Xue, this is not good. We're all brothers and sisters of the true martial pavilion. How can we fight each other at this time? Now, we should unite and face the outside world together to show the prestige of the true martial pavilion. Unity is strength. Don't you think so? After this, will you happily accept my challenge? If you can, I won't challenge you now." "Yes, of course. Sister Xue, you can challenge me at any time. You're always welcome. I really want to experience your azure silk blue ripple technique again." Chen Hao squinted his eyes and stared at Wan Yixue with a smile. This was the truth. Wan Yixue's azure silk blue ripple technique might cause others to die without knowing how, but to the abnormal fatty, it was a very good enjoyment. Moreover, it was an enjoyment that cleansed the soul. "This is what you said. Don't go back on your words, damn fatty. And don't worry, Sister Xue. Damn fatty you. Sister Xue, what did I do to you? You wait. I'll show you." Wan Yixue's face was slightly red. After she finished speaking, she turned around and left Chen Hao. She really couldn't stand the fatty's shamelessness, especially his hypocritical face in front of and behind people. She couldn't stand it. Although the more she understood, the less hope she had of defeating the fatty, she had said in front of everyone that she would challenge the fatty again. No matter what the result was, she had to try. Even if she lost, it wouldn't be shameful. It would be best if she won. And her biggest reliance was the azure silk blue ripple technique. The reason she brought it up now was to let everyone know that she wouldn't back down just because the fatty's performance was becoming more and more abnormal. Of course, if Chen Hao didn't say that they would unite against the outside world, she would still say it. As long as Chen Hao unconditionally agreed to her challenge, it would be fine. The time definitely couldn't be now. Everyone, it's time. Those who want a challenge can come and register. Once again, within this month, no matter who it is, as long as they are challenged, they must accept the challenge. Rejecting will be considered as admitting defeat. Also, I hope that everyone will abide by the unwritten rules. Those who are ranked in the thousands and below, don't waste everyone's time at this time. When it was time, an extremely powerful old man stepped onto the stage. His voice was majestic and crisp as he spoke. He's here. Chen Ritian. And at this time, Chen Ritian stepped on the old man's voice and flew over. Chapter 1266. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. At this moment, several teachers also flew into the ring to ensure the safety of both the challenger and the one being challenged. In this month's challenge matches, both the challenger and the one being challenged were basically the top geniuses of Dahua Academy. Because of this, the matches were all hosted and judged by teachers of Dahua Academy, and no mistakes were allowed. After the commotion caused by Chen Ritian's arrival, a few of the stronger auras in the crowd immediately took out their tokens and handed them to the old man in the ring. I challenge the 10th place. I challenge the 7th place. I challenge the 43rd place. Voila, the first 3 people to speak caused a commotion. The 7th place is Fart King Li Yuan, the 10th is Ice Queen Xue Fian, and the 43rd is Young Wind King Ling Feng. The challengers are all from Dahua Pavilion. That's normal, Dahua Pavilion has the most top experts. No way? While the crowd was still discussing, the challengers were still challenging Chen Hao, Xue Fian, and Ling Feng. What was worse was that they were still from Dahua Pavilion. The situation was more serious than what Imo Shilin had expected. The challengers had to report the ranking of the person they wanted to challenge, and the judges would arrange the order of appearance according to the challenger's registration. Every cultivator only had one chance to challenge at the beginning, but each time they were challenged, they would have one more chance to challenge. There was no limit to the number of challengers. Of course, the prerequisite was that the challenger had to be in peak condition. Motherfucker, isn't my ranking just a little low? Because Ao Guang's ranking was outside the top 100, no one had challenged him for the time being. Originally, he had wanted to observe the situation before making a decision. But now, he had directly taken out his token. Although there would definitely be people challenging him later, how could Ao Guang have the patience to wait? Chen Hao, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian were all challenged, how could he not go? I challenged the 8th place. Ao Guang took the initiative to challenge the 8th place, but the crowd was not surprised. After all, everyone knew that Ao Guang's potential value had not been reassessed. His current ranking did not represent his true strength. At this moment, a cultivator beside Wan Yixue stepped out and took out his token. I challenge the 8th place. Chi. I challenge the 8th place. I challenge number 2. I challenge 2nd place. Then, Wan Yixue and several others also signed up. The information displayed on the token was shockingly the top geniuses of the true martial pavilion. Wan Yixue's ranking was the worst among them. Other than that, the people who were with Wan Yixue and the others but had yet to challenge them were obviously the elites of the true martial pavilion. At this moment, the true martial pavilion's disciples and teachers all let out a sigh of relief, feeling a little better. Without a doubt, the Great Pavilion's deliberate provocation of Li Yuan, Xue Fian, and Ling Feng was too obvious. It could be said that they didn't try to hide it at all. Knowing that someone had already challenged him, he signed up to challenge the same person again before the results were out. It was simply too ruthless. Yet now, the true martial pavilion was obviously returning an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, because the current number 8 and number 2 were both disciples of the Grand Transformation Pavilion. However, Wan Yixue daring to challenge the 8th place exceeded everyone's expectations. Wan Yixue was originally ranked in the 200s. After her contribution points were cleared, her ranking only fluctuated by a few places. She was still in the 200s. Challenging the 8th place, the difference was too great. Other than senior apprentice sister Wan Yixue, The others are all top 10 experts of our true martial pavilion's Daoist Golden Wonderland. Look, the one standing in the middle who hasn't challenged is our true martial pavilion's first disciple of the Daoist Golden Wonderland, Jiang Chongling. Someone in the crowd introduced to the new students. The first disciple of the true martial pavilion's Daoist Golden Wonderland, Jiang Chongling, ranked 6th. Other than the fatty and Xue Fian, he was the only one in the top 10. Before Chen Hao's group of cultivators entered Dehua Academy, Jiang Chongling was also the only one in the top 10 of Dehua Academy and ranked towards the middle. No one challenged the first place. When the first batch finished signing up, many cultivators in the crowd said with regret, "The first place is Qin Ritian. With such heaven-defying results, bloody, cruel, and perverse fighting methods, and such amazing recovery abilities, who dares to challenge him?" Originally, the first disciple had hopes of defeating Qin Ritian, but I heard that he is about to go to Hongmeng region. The pavilion master of Dehua Academy will probably interfere and leave the position of first disciple to Qin Ritian. Indeed, after seeing Qin Ritian's combat strength test, even if you are strong enough, you have to consider whether you can withstand his terrifying fighting methods. I feel that Fatty Li Yuan and Xue Fian are hiding a lot. According to reliable information, during the test, Fatty did not know the rules and got at least 1 or 2,000 points less in the attack power test. Starting from the 90-second attack, he used his ultimate move consecutively. If he only used his strongest attack once, he would definitely be on par with Qin Ritian. After all, the last attack of Fatty's ultimate move was close to 18,000 points. Also, during the endurance test, Fatty saw that everyone else had left and thought that he got first place, so he left directly. Clearly, the test results are not his true strength. Then there is Xue Fian. It is said that she only revealed her true body during the combat strength test. At other times, she was under a disguise. Clearly, this result is not her strongest result. Everyone, after the statistics, the order of the first 100 matches has been arranged. Dehua Pavilion disciple Bai Ji, who is ranked 8th, has 3 challengers. First, we invite Bai Ji and challenger Ao Guang to the stage. A moment later, the referee's voice sounded, interrupting everyone's discussion. Ao Guang, who was already prepared, did not hesitate and directly flew into the air. Under normal circumstances, this kind of challenge competition in the academy had the same rules. Usually, there would be a batch of 100 matches. If there were repeated challengers in the 100 matches, they would have the priority to go on stage. For example, only Bai Ji, who was ranked 8th, was challenged by Ao Guang, Wan Yishui, and another disciple of the true martial pavilion. There were a total of 3 matches, so he had to fight 1 match first. The remaining 2 matches would be fought with Chen Hao, Xue Fian, Ling Feng, and the others who had been challenged twice, according to a certain order. When there was only 1 match left for all the challengers, it would be considered the 3rd round. Simply put, it was to give the challengers a certain amount of time to breathe. Sorry, there was a small bug. Thank you for pointing it out. Dark Mountain has already fixed it. It will not affect reading. Thank you again for pointing out the bug. Thank you. Chapter 1267. The aura around Ao Guang who rose into the air became abnormally sharp. His momentum was like a rainbow, and his battle intent billowed. The great transformation pavilion disciple Bai Ji, who was ranked 8th, was not to be outdone. Humph! Am I, Bai Ji, someone with an undeserved reputation? What Tom, Dick, and Harry dares to challenge me? Truly laughable. Bai Ji rose into the air at the same time as he spoke, charging towards the high-grade arena floating in the air. No matter what, he who was ranked 8th was also a veteran top 10 expert. But the true martial pavilion actually turned him into a bargaining chip to compete with the great transformation pavilion. Furthermore, it was a 3-person challenge. Although Ao Guang was a rare monstrous genius, he was also just a newcomer. How could he compare with him? Of course, he was very willing to fight with Ao Guang. Being able to trample this kind of newcomer with great potential and higher reputation was undoubtedly an excellent opportunity to earn destiny. But Wan Yishui, This kind of person who was ranked below 200 also dared to challenge him. It was too outrageous. He felt that he was being looked down upon by the true martial pavilion. Oh, sorry, Tom, Dick, and Harry weren't talking about you. At least your future should be a little stronger than Tom, Dick, and Harry. Bai Ji saw Ao Guang's bristling with anger, and his face revealed a slight smile, adding fuel to the fire once again. His gaze when looking at Ao Guang became even more contemptuous. A newcomer was a newcomer. Without the experience and tempering of a high-grade academy, he was a little too impatient. However, this was precisely the result that Bai Ji wanted. A calm person was far more terrifying than an angry person. Regardless of whether it was at a lower realm, now, or at a higher realm, this point would not change. Fuck your mother. Idiot, right? Bai Ji. Uncultured wild monkey. Bai Ji? I think you're an idiot. I'll tell you clearly that your goal has been achieved. I'm angry. Ao Guang bared his teeth and said without a care for his image. The originally skinny and eccentric him became even more ferocious, his vicious aura billowing to the heavens. At the same time, a golden light flashed between Ao Guang's brows, and a weapon appeared in his hand. When Chen Hao saw Ao Guang's weapon, he directly opened his eyes wide in shock. The two ends were glittering golden hoops, and in the middle was a black iron that emitted a cold aura. Next to the hoops was a line of words, Rui Jingu Cudgel, weight 13,500 kilograms. Rui Jingu Bang? What the fuck? How is this possible? Chen Hao looked at the words on the stick and was stunned. Ao Guang's weapon was exactly the same as the golden cudgel of the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong. Although this guy looks small and skinny and looks a little like a monkey, his origin bloodline is clearly, damn, according to the legends on Earth, the monkey obtained the sea-stabilizing divine needle from the East Sea Dragon Palace, which is also the Jingu Bang. Could it be? Chen Hao couldn't figure it out. When Chen Hao first met Ao Guang, he had already sensed Ao Guang's origin bloodline. Although he called him a monkey, his origin bloodline was not that of a monkey. Instead, it was the ancient dragon bloodline that Chen Hao was most familiar with. Moreover, it was much purer and thicker than the origin bloodline of the Azure Dragon, one of the 5 mythical beasts of Chen Hao. It could be said that they were not on the same level at all. It was also because of this that Chen Hao saw Ao Guang as a strong opponent during the test. It was just that Ao Guang did not reveal a trace of his origin bloodline in the end. Otherwise, how could Ao Guang's results be so much worse than his own? But now, Ao Guang was like a real monkey, using a cudgel as a weapon. It was fine if he used a cudgel, but it was exactly the same as the Rui Jingu cudgel in the legends. Even the words and weight were exactly the same. It's possible. It's very possible. What the fuck? If that's really the case, wouldn't this kid be super awesome? The perfect fusion of 2 powerful origin bloodlines. It's a pity that I haven't seen the real Monkey King's bloodline. I don't know what kind of aura the Monkey King's bloodline has. Rui Jingu Cudgel? What? Fuck? I should have thought of this earlier. Fuck, I've been calling him a monkey for so long. I knew that this guy was hiding his strength. Why didn't I think of this? What Chen Hao did not expect was that while he was still in shock, the cultivators present were also in an uproar when they saw Ao Guang's weapon. Many people exclaimed in shock. Ling Feng's eyes shone brightly as he cursed. Xue Fian frowned slightly as if she was thinking of something. Su Tao, In Su Su, and the other members of the Carnage Battle team all stared at Ao Guang in shock. Their mouths were wide open. Even the judges and teachers of the arbitration team, as well as the teachers and higher-ups of the various pavilions who came to watch, were extremely shocked. Coward, you pissed your pants just because of this? The furious Ao Guang sensed the astonished gazes of the people around him, and he enjoyed it very much. Especially when he sensed that Chen Hao and Ling Feng were extremely astonished, he couldn't help but feel smug for no reason. As for Bai Ji's stupefied and shocked appearance, it made him feel a burst of contempt and ridicule. You are the descendant of the Monkey King? Scared? It's too late. Take this. Boom. Sensing that the restriction on the stage had disappeared, Ao Guang, who had already lost his patience, no longer hesitated and swung his staff. Bai Ji, who was still in shock, hurriedly rushed forward. However, he was pushed back 1,000 miles by Ao Guang's violent strength. Cracks appeared on his skin and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. You dare to be arrogant in front of me with this little strength? Fuck your mother's head. Have another taste of my stick. Ao Guang was insufferably arrogant. His short hair stood up like steel needles. When he swung his staff, 9 layers of golden light appeared behind him. The staff in front of him covered the sky. His battle intent was like a mountain entering the sea. Rumble! Rumble! Ao Guang's aura was like a rainbow. He didn't show any mercy and swung his staff again and again. Each staff was stronger than the previous one. Simple, direct, violent, and without any fancy moves, there was only the most violent suppression of strength. Bai Ji, who had been arrogant at the start, was now suppressed by Ao Guang to the point that he didn't even have time to breathe. He felt as if numerous mountains were smashing on his body. Even if he used all his strength, he was still unable to escape from Ao Guang's power. He could only endure the attacks while vomiting blood. And there was no temper to speak of. Although the Monkey King's bloodline didn't have many members, the strength of the Monkey King's bloodline wasn't something that ordinary people would dare to provoke. To be able to possess the signature weapon of the Monkey King's bloodline, the Rui Jingu Bang, it was obvious that he had the most authentic bloodline of the Monkey King. How strong was he? If he knew that Ao Guang had the bloodline of the Monkey King, how would he dare to say such words to humiliate Ao Guang? Although the Monkey King had transcended the monkey bloodline and wasn't something ordinary monkeys could compare to, it was still a type of monkey. Humiliating a monkey in front of a descendant of the Monkey King was no different from courting death. In the Monkey King's bloodline, let alone the direct bloodline, even the branch bloodline was famous for being ruthless. They were existences that feared nothing in the heavens and earth. Even if you were the father of the heavenly emperor, as long as you offended them, they would still find you and fight you to the death. There was no solution to it. Who asked the Monkey King's bloodline to have an undying body? Chapter 1268. The physique of the Monkey King's descendants was something that transcended the 3 realms and the 5 elements. They were invulnerable to weapons and invulnerable to fire and water. They were truly immortal. Perhaps it was because of this that the Monkey King's descendants were fearless and violent. No matter who it was, no matter how strong they were, as long as they were an enemy, they would fight. Even though Chen Hao had long since known that Ao Guang was hiding something, he was still shocked by Ao Guang's performance. The berserk offensive power and strength that erupted from his small and thin body was definitely the strongest Chen Hao had ever seen. Even the coiling dragon, who was like a savage beast, did not have the indomitable and unstoppable aura that the monkey had. Are the Monkey King's descendants very powerful? Chen Hao couldn't help but ask. They're all right. Ling Feng's gaze was fixed on the stage. She didn't even look at Chen Hao as she answered reluctantly. They're more than powerful. Fatty, I can tell you that the Monkey King's descendants are even more terrifying than the primordial divine dragon. If it wasn't for the fact that the Monkey King's descendants only had one descendant, they would definitely be stronger than the dragon race. Can Ao Guang's staff prove that he's from the Monkey King's descendants? However, this is only a replica of the Rui Jingu Bang. The real Rui Jingu Bang is the weapon of the Monkey King's ancestors. It's controlled by the Monkey King's tribe leader and is also the most precious treasure of the Monkey King's tribe. It's said that it was forged by a great figure in the immortal realm. It can be big or small, long or short. It's a heaven-defying immortal item. The descendants of the Monkey King's descendants can obtain a replica of the Rui Jingu Bang made by their elders. This is something that no cultivator can replicate. Although it's not as good as the real thing, it's still a heaven-defying treasure that can grow. Therefore, when you see Ao Guang holding this weapon, you can be sure that he's from the Monkey King's descendants. Moreover, he should be from the younger generation that just came into being not long ago. Oh, so that's the case. I didn't think that the Monkey King would be so powerful. He actually hid so much. What's the name of the Monkey King's ancestor? Chen Hao asked. The Monkey King's bloodline is all surnamed Sunday. It's said that their ancestor is a supreme being from the immortal world. His title is Great Sage Equal to Heavens, and his name is Sun Wukong. The name Ao Guang should be a fake name. Brother Fatty, there's one more thing. According to the legends, as long as a descendant of the Monkey King grows up, they would be invincible among those of the same level. Su Tao said. He didn't realize that his words had caused great waves in Qin Hao's heart. The mighty figure of the celestial world, the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong. Could it be that the legends of Earth also came from the same immortal world as the cultivators of the great world of Xiandinu? Was the greater thousand world condensed on Earth the immortal world? After pondering for a short while, Qin Hao rejected this conjecture. In the celestial realm, since the NPC Wang Lin had said that Earth, ancient chaos, and the celestial realm were all connected to the celestial realm, one could enter the celestial realm through the celestial realm's path, then the celestial realm should not be Earth. It seems that I have to take some time to study the history and ancient legends of the great world of Xiandi. Qin Hao thought to himself. In the greater thousand world of ancient chaos, perhaps because of the great war that broke out in the ancient chaos realm, there were not many valuable ancient legends left in the ancient chaos realm. However, the great world of Xiandi was obviously different. Perhaps, like the Monkey King's clan, it could allow Qin Hao to discover many things that were similar to Earth. Bang! Ao Guang's staff came down again and collided with Bai Ji's energy. Blood burst out. First, Bai Ji's palms exploded. Then both of his arms exploded. Even the space between his eyebrows was densely packed with fine cracks. His entire body was sent flying and crashed into the wall of the arena. It was also at this time that the teacher who was supervising the competition suddenly stepped in and saved Bai Ji. At the same time, he stopped Ao Guang's next move that was even more powerful and violent. Ao Guang wins. Voila! The surrounding cultivators, regardless of whether they were students or teachers, all looked at Ao Guang in shock. Who would have thought that the 8th-ranked expert in the top 10 would not even have the chance to fight back and would be defeated by Ao Guang's imposing manner? The strength of the legendary Monkey King's lineage made all the cultivators present have a clearer understanding of it. The little Monkey King Ao Guang is actually a true descendant of the Monkey King's lineage. I really didn't expect. Who gave Ao Guang his nickname? Ao Guang's nickname was mainly based on his talent and appearance. Who would have thought that he would become the true little Monkey King? It could be said that he had hit the jackpot by a fluke. I keep feeling that something is wrong. Since Ao Guang is a descendant of the Monkey King, he should be supreme from inside out. During the battle just now, he did indeed have such an aura. However, before that his performance was below Fatty Li Yuan. This is inconsistent with the character of the Monkey King's clan. That's right. Most importantly, Ao Guang's strength is definitely not inferior to Fatty Li Yuan. Why would he be below Fatty Li Yuan? The crowd was buzzing with discussion. Ao Guang, who had stepped out of the arena, did not care about them at all. He directly landed beside Qin Hao, Ling Feng, and the rest. Brother Monkey is so mighty. Brother Monkey is so powerful. The top 10 cultivators did not even have the chance to fight back in front of Brother Monkey. Brother Monkey is so good at hiding. Xia Shui and the rest stared at Ao Guang with shining eyes. They did not hide their truth at all. I'm just so. I've always been low-key. I only revealed a little. I didn't expect that I would reveal too much. Sigh. Ao Guang shook his head proudly. However, his eyes were fixed on Ling Feng, full of provocation. Ling Feng's face was full of disdain. What are you talking about? You're just a descendant of the Monkey King. I'll let you know later. Bloodline inheritance and racial superiority are nothing in front of me. I'll wait and see. Ao Guang said with disdain. After hearing Qin Hao's voice transmission, Ao Guang smiled and replied excitedly, Brother Fatty, am I good enough? The way he treated Ling Feng was completely different from how he treated Ling Feng. Are you really a descendant of the Monkey King? This? Brother Fatty, is there anyone in this world who dares to pretend to be a descendant of the Monkey King? Ao Guang asked. That's not it. It's just that I feel that you're not just a descendant of the Monkey King. Brother Fatty, you don't have to say much. Can you give me some information about the Monkey King? Especially about your ancestor, the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong? I've heard some legends about the great sage equal to heaven before. That's why I'm very curious, Chen Hao said. Just now, he had asked Su Tao. However, Su Tao's knowledge was very limited. He did not have any useful information for Chen Hao. Chapter 1269. Chen Hao's words made Ao Guang very surprised. The legend of the Monkey King tribe's great sage, heaven's equal, was not more than the information circulating in the great world of Xiandi. To be precise, no one in the Monkey King tribe had ever seen the great sage, heaven's equal. All the information came from the monkey tribe's treasure, the Rui Jingu Bang. Brother Fatty, you mean you've obtained information about the Monkey King tribe's great sage, heaven's equal in the greater world where you were born? Ao Guang asked with his eyes wide open. You can say that. What is it? Fuck, I'm the one asking you, okay? Brother Fatties, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but what I know is no different from what is circulating in the great world of Xiandi. Also, I won't hide it from you. Your intuition is right. I'm not entirely of the Monkey King tribe's bloodline, and I didn't grow up in the monkey tribe. Although I obtained the imitation Rui Jingu Bang, I didn't obtain the inheritance and memory of the Monkey King tribe. This is because the Monkey King tribe's bloodline isn't the main bloodline in my bloodline. As for what it is specifically, Brother Fatty, don't ask me. I can't tell you for the time being. I'm afraid only the direct descendants of the Monkey King who obtained the inheritance and unique skills of the Monkey King tribe would know more. Therefore, I really don't know much about the Monkey King tribe's great sage, heaven's equal. Upon hearing Ao Guang's words, Chen Hao was slightly disappointed. He thought he would be able to obtain some information about Sun Wukong and understand more about the connection between the earth and the great world of Xiandi. However, Ao Guang didn't have any information. Of course, Chen Hao believed that Ao Guang wasn't lying to him since he could tell him about his bloodline. He really didn't know. I only heard from my mother that all the information about the Monkey King tribe's ancestor came from the monkey tribe's treasure, the Rui Jingu Bang. The first Monkey King of the great world of Xiandi was also born from the Rui Jingu Bang. Ao Guang paused for a moment and then transmitted his voice. So the great sage equaling heaven has never appeared in the great world of Xiandi? Chen Hao asked. That's right. To be exact, no one has ever seen him before. The actual founder of the monkey tribe was the first Monkey King of the great world of Xiandi. The information about the great sage equaling heaven was only announced to the world by the first Monkey King when he condensed the statue in the ancestral temple of the monkey tribe. Ancestral temple? Chen Hao was stunned for a moment and then asked, is it condensing the power of faith? Fatty bro, it's only you. If it were anyone else, I definitely wouldn't tell them. Just now, you also saw that when I burst out, the aura that I released and the strength that I erupted with greatly exceeded your expectations, right? The truth is, I'm not that strong. The reason why I could do that was not only because of the Monkey King's signature weapon, the Rui Jingu Bang, but also because of the power of faith. As long as the Monkey King bloodline activates the power of their bloodline source and injects it into the replica of the Rui Jingu Bang, they will be able to connect with the treasure of the monkey tribe. The real Rui Jingu Bang will obtain the most violent power in the world from it. That's the power of the great sage equaling heaven. Ao Guang said. This means that the great sage equaling heaven might still be alive. Or perhaps he's in the process of resurrection through the power of faith. In short, he hasn't truly died. Chen Hao said. Yes, that's for sure. Moreover, although I can't sense it in the short term, compared to billions of years ago, the power of faith that the Monkey King bloodline can obtain is much stronger. The holy aura that the real Rui Jingu Bang exudes is also much stronger. Ao Guang said. In his heart, he was even more impressed with Chen Hao. To be able to sense that he wasn't just a member of the Monkey King bloodline, and to be able to guess the truth with just a few words from him, it seemed like there was nothing that he couldn't understand. If that's the case, then it's more likely that. Chen Hao suddenly looked at Ao Guang again and said telepathically, "Where does the monkey tribe live?" "Gold Dipper Planet." "Fatty bro, what's more likely?" Ao Guang asked curiously. "Nirvana rebirth, and it should be the nirvana of the true self, or a rebirth that surpasses the nirvana of the true self. Gold Dipper Planet, bring me there when you have the time." "Alright, I was going to make a trip there anyway. Since Fatty bro is interested, let's go together." "Fatty bro, I've said everything that needs to be said. You still haven't answered my question." The great sage, Heaven's equal, Sun Wukong, is nicknamed Traveling Monk Sunday. He was born with an immortal spirit body that was born from the immortal stone at the beginning of the world. He was born with an immortal body that was invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire. He was taught by Patriarch Bodhi. Who is the Patriarch Bodhi? Ao Guang asked in surprise. He had never heard of this name before. He should be a mighty figure from the immortal realm, an expert who is proficient in Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. I obtained some information about the mighty figures from the immortal realm from a historical site in the original greater world. Coincidentally, one of them was the great sage, Heaven's equal, Sun Wukong. I thought that he was just a figure made up by the ancients, but I didn't expect that there would be legends about him in the great world of Xiandi. Chen Hao said vaguely. "Anything else?" "That's all." After the challenge, let me play with your Jingu Bang replica for a few days. Brother Fatty, don't tell me you want to study it. It's useless. Unless you have the bloodline of the Monkey King, you won't be able to merge your mind with it. No matter how strong your cultivation is, it won't work. Also, this replica is rooted in my bloodline. Even if I wanted to give it to you, I couldn't do it. It's that powerful. Otherwise, how could they conclude that I'm the descendant of the Monkey King just because I took out the Rui Jingu Bang? That's because other than the bloodline of the Monkey King, no one can obtain the Jingu Bang. Now for the second round. May the challenger, Mo Ku from the Great Transformation Pavilion, and the challenged, Li Yuan from the True Martial Pavilion, please come on stage. Just as Chen Hao and Ao Guang were communicating telepathically, the referee's voice rang out. "It's my turn." Chen Hao was slightly surprised, but he quickly restrained his thoughts, and with a swing of his butt he flew up into the sky. Previously, the number of people who signed up for the challenge wouldn't change because of the change in the ranking. It was targeted at the person. Ao Guang's victory wouldn't affect the later rounds of the competition. Mo Ku from the Great Transformation Pavilion was originally ranked 36th. He was the fifth of the top 10 veteran experts in the Great Transformation Pavilion. However, he was the weakest of the two cultivators who challenged Chen Hao. The other one was the expert who was ranked third in the Great Transformation Pavilion. He was the one who had the highest chance of being promoted to the top 10 of the Great Transformation Pavilion. Therefore, Mo Ku could only be considered as a stepping stone. The moment he stepped into the arena, Chen Hao felt that his body was instantly bound by mysterious runes. His physical body and True Yuan were directly imprisoned, but it didn't harm him at all. The level of this arena is higher than the one I fought with Sima Duo Li in the True Martial City. I can't waste it. Chapter 1270. Chen Hao sensed the mysterious restraints that were released from the arena itself. It was a stark contrast to his opponent, Moke. Although Moke remained silent, he stared at Chen Hao. His battle intent soared rapidly. On the other hand, Chen Hao's chubby face looked intoxicated. He squinted his eyes and did not even look at Moke. He did not even release the slightest bit of battle intent. This gave people the feeling that Fatty did not put Moke in his eyes at all. This made the people from the Carnage Battle team worry for Chen Hao. Although they knew that Fatty was very strong, to look down on Moke in such a blatant manner was to underestimate his opponent. After all, Moke was a veteran expert who had the potential to be ranked 36th in the Dehua University. The moment the restraints were released, Mo Ku, who had a cold expression and had not said a single word, was like a ferocious poisonous snake that directly bared its sharp fangs. The battle intent that had gathered to its peak was like a river bursting through a dam as it violently pressed towards Chen Hao. At the same time, he threw out a punch. Boom. His fist was like a shooting star that shot out dazzling fist lights as it tore through the sky, and it carried along a terrifying pressure, force, and talisman markings. It was extremely valiant and powerful, and the aura of his fist surged and surged. Everywhere it passed, space collapsed and rumbled as it exploded, and the scene was terrifying to the extreme. It caused most of the cultivators in the surroundings of the arena to stare with their eyes wide open in astonishment. Even the gazes of Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian flashed with a wisp of seriousness as they looked at Chen Hao. Strong. Even with Ao Guang and Zhu Yu in front, no one dared to look down on Moke's explosive punch. To the cultivators from the Daoist Golden Wonderland, just this opening punch was enough to kill 99% of them. What would Fatty, who did not seem to care about his opponent at all, do? That was what everyone wanted to see. Until now, there was no doubt that Fatty had extremely strong battle power. However, he had not really fought in front of everyone. The previous arena battle with Wan Yishui could at best be regarded as the Fatty's performance. There was no head-on confrontation at all, so it naturally did not count. Moreover, the opponent in the combat strength testing tower was not a real cultivator. Therefore, this battle could be said to be the first performance of this year's #1 Golden Immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. Good. Seeing the fist aura approaching him, Chen Hao's pupils shrank. He swung his butt and his entire body disappeared into thin air. Fuck. Brother Fatty can't be dodging, right? Ao Guang, who had just finished the battle, was looking forward to seeing Fatty killing everyone. But he did not expect Fatty to dodge the first attack. Like when he was fighting Wan Yishui. Damn Fatty. Wan Yishui, who was also staring at Chen Hao, could not help but mutter in his heart when he saw this scene. However, just as this thought appeared in everyone's mind, Chen Hao's fat body suddenly appeared again. Not only did he not dodge, but he also closed the distance between him and Moke. What followed was a mountainous pressure and an incomparably sharp spear aura. A direct confrontation. Fuck. Good job, Fatty. Amazing. Fatty's endurance is indeed not his limit. In just a moment, although the result of the collision had not been seen, everyone was in awe of Fatty's strength. Attacking later but arriving first. 2 points in a straight line, and after the opponent's attack was condensed, Fatty completely endured the pressure of the opponent's fist aura. Just based on this point, it was not something an ordinary person could do or dare to do. Rumble. Rumble. When the spear aura and the fist aura met, the space was suddenly torn apart. Energy rolled and the sound shook the sky. Moke, who was slightly shocked, snorted coldly. He twisted his body and his hands drew a beautiful arc. He easily dissolved the terrifying force of the impact. Chen Hao, who was holding his spear and retreating to reduce the impact, was shocked when he saw this scene. Ancient martial Tai Chi. Good. Amazing, amazing. Senior brother Moke has actually cultivated ancient martial Tai Chi to such a level. Fatty's spear aura just now was very strong, but senior brother Moke obviously only used a little strength and easily dissolved it. Did you see that? This is our Ancient Martial Arts Association's unique skill. Tai Chi, as long as you understand its essence, you can turn something rotten into something magical. Our Ancient Martial Arts Association has a lot of similar unique skills. Someone in the crowd cheered. The people from the Ancient Martial Arts Association did not miss the opportunity to advertise. Ancient Martial Tai Chi? Interesting. I'll play with you. Chen Hao thought to himself. At the same time, he thrust his spear. The crimson-red spear aura was like a blood-red waterfall as it rushed towards Moke. There was nothing fancy about it. There was only a stronger pressure and strength than the first strike. I'll see to what extent you can dissolve it. It was also at this moment that Fatty's slightly mocking tone broke the silence that no one had expected from the moment they stepped onto the stage. How arrogant! Although your score is high, in front of me, you're destined to have high scores and low abilities. Show me what you're capable of. Today, I'll play with you and let you see the highest level of ancient martial Tai Chi. Humph. Buzz. Huff huff. Facing Chenhao's teasing, Moke replied arrogantly. As his voice resounded throughout the entire square, his body arched slightly. Both his hands seemed to be moving slowly. At the same time, his entire body started to spin on the spot. In an instant, it seemed as though he was moving the space around him. It was as though a whirlpool that could devour everything in the world had appeared. Indeed, you have some skills. Looks like the Ancient Martial Arts Association is not simple. Chenhao's attack did not change. However, at this moment, he was shocked again. He could clearly feel that when Moke's hands drew a circle and his body started to spin, the pressure from his spear aura started to be devoured. This was something that even Chenhao could not do. Boom. Chi-chi-chi. Who? When Chenhao's fierce attack came into contact with the whirlpool around Moke, which was getting bigger and bigger, there was only a sound. Then, it was pulled by the whirlpool and dissolved like a cocoon being pulled out. What shocked most of the freshmen was that the whirlpool seemed to have been replenished by the energy contained in Chenhao's spear aura. In an instant, it expanded by a few times. Its spinning speed became faster and its devouring power became stronger. The energy of heaven and earth in the entire arena surged and gathered towards Moke. Again. Chi-chi-chi-chi. Chenhao did not seem to be discouraged at all. Without any hesitation, he unleashed an even stronger attack. Furthermore, he raised his hand and used 5 spears. Buzz 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 buzz. In an instant, the 5 spears each gave off a glow that belonged to the 5 different elements. Furthermore, they quickly merged into one as they moved forward. Great 5 elements art! The crowd instantly exclaimed. Fatty Li Yuan's background was not known to everyone. Of course, there were a few exceptions. Hence, at this moment, when Fatty released the Great 5 Elements art with a shake of his hand, it shocked many cultivators. Chapter 1271. Emoka's eyes flashed coldly. He stretched out his hands and waved them around his body. In an instant, the speed of his rotation increased by a few times. It was as though he had turned into a huge ball that could swallow everything. Even his own body had disappeared. The practitioners in the square were extremely shocked. Regardless of whether it was Fatty or Emoku's performance, they had exceeded their expectations. Boom. Rumble. When the rainbow spear radiance formed by the Great 5 Elements art collided with the rotating Emoku, there was a terrifying explosion. The space in the arena was collapsing piece by piece. However, what shocked Chenhao and everyone else was that the energy that was supposed to wreak havoc did not appear. Instead, it merged with Emoku's rotating energy. Even though it shook violently countless times, it quickly became a part of the rotating energy. Being able to release the Great 5 Elements art in an instant is very powerful. Unfortunately, the power of the instant release is too weak. I'll give you time to form a stronger attack. Come on. At this moment, Emoku's voice floated out from the rotating energy ball. The rotating energy ball, which had already expanded greatly, started to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye following Emoku's voice. It was as though it was compressing energy. Do you think I'm an idiot? The essence of this ancient martial Tai Chi is to use 4 ounces to deflect 1,000 caddies. Using one's strong mental state and ability to control one's strength to turn external forces into one's own. I'm just testing you. Why would I return your strength? As for spinning, I know how to do that too. Buzz. Chenhao joked. His fat body shook violently and started to spin like Emoku. Fuck, what is Brother Fatty trying to do? Huh, Fatty is too funny. How can ancient martial Tai Chi be so simple? You don't say. Look, Fatty is spinning very fast and round like a meatball. He's even rounder than Senior Emoku. The surrounding cultivators were all astonished. The people on the Fatty's side naturally did not understand what the Fatty was trying to do. After all, they all knew that ancient martial arts were not as simple as they looked. Even if they were completely similar, without the corresponding mental cultivation method and incantation, they would not be able to achieve the same effect. In short, the mental cultivation method and incantation were the key. On the other hand, the disciples on Moku's side started to laugh. However, buzz. What surprised everyone was that due to the sudden increase in the spinning speed, the fat on the fatty's body was torn apart. In an instant, the fatty's spinning speed had reached a terrifying level. Just this alone was enough to shock everyone. What was even more shocking was that the fatty's spinning had brought along the sky around him and spread out in all directions, expanding the range of his spinning. Oh my god, this aura is very similar to the ancient martial art Taiji fist. It should be the ancient martial art Taiji fist. It's just that the comprehension is slightly different. Back then, Fatty claimed to be a natural ancient martial arts genius. Looks like he really did learn it. That's strange. Which upper-class world did Fatty come from? Ancient martial arts, even in the great world of Xiandi, only first-grade academies and above can come into contact with it. Fatty is so powerful, how can his master be weak? His master must have also stayed in the great world of Xiandi for a period of time and imparted it to him. At this moment, all the cultivators who had studied the ancient martial art Taiji fist started to discuss it in shock. Even though Xianxia had only started to spin and had not come close to Moku, who had already formed a huge energy ball, the aura that was released from his body could not be hidden from everyone. Furthermore, everyone could be sure that Fatty's comprehension of the ancient martial art Taiji fist was definitely not inferior to Moku's. Damn Fatty, so he was just testing? Moku was shocked and angry at the same time when he saw this scene. Others could sense it, but he, who was in the situation, could naturally sense that Fatty was definitely using the ancient martial art Taiji fist. This guy was proficient in it, but he purposely let Moku devour his energy at the start. It was obvious that he was testing him. More accurately, he did not even care about giving Moku some energy. As a proud person, Moku naturally felt that he was being looked down upon by Fatty again. Boo. Damn Fatty, come on. I want to see how you are going to fight against me. Chi, Moku roared angrily. As he spoke, terrifying energy gushed out from his body and merged into the devouring whirlpool that he had formed. Boom. When the spinning ball suddenly expanded by 10 times and once again compressed until it was smaller than the whirlpool that Xianxia had formed in a short period of time, Moku's mind moved and he suddenly charged towards the spinning Xianxia at lightning speed. Boom. Boom boom boom. Moku, who was charging towards Xianxia at lightning speed, seemed to have transformed into a small black hole. Wherever he passed, the space collapsed. All energy and all objects were devoured cleanly and became part of Moku's compressed whirlpool. A sharp, majestic, and terrifying aura spread out in all directions, causing the cultivators outside the arena to have goosebumps. Some of the weaker cultivators could not help but retreat, afraid that the whirlpool would touch them and tear them into pieces. Amazing! Moku instantly shot out all his energy and merged it into the Taiji ball. How ruthless and decisive! Moku is going to win this round. At this moment, many cultivators were shocked by Moku's sudden outburst. At the same time, they could not help but admire Moku's decisiveness and ruthlessness. The battle had only just begun, but Moku clearly wanted to determine the winner in one move. Furthermore, Moku's choice of timing was undoubtedly the best for him. Fatty had already lost the initiative because he started spinning later. Furthermore, Moku suddenly went berserk and merged all his energy into the spinning energy. Fatty was in an even more passive position. In terms of time, no matter what, Fatty was unable to bring himself to his peak state and engage in a clash of the best. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Shui Fian, Su Tao, and the rest were all worried for Fatty. However, at the same time, they were looking forward to Fatty's outburst. After spending some time together, all of them were sure that Fatty was not as simple as he looked, especially Ao Guang. Although he was worried, that was because he did not know if Fatty would outburst. However, Ao Guang firmly believed that those who could not shake him would not be able to shake Fatty. To others, this kind of trust in Fatty was definitely blind. However, Ao Guang did not think so. Ao Guang did not have any special abilities, nor did he know what kind of power Fatty was hiding. Similarly, Ao Guang did not have any intuition in this area in the past. However, when he met Fatty for the first time, even though he did not know Fatty's abilities, he submitted to him from the bottom of his heart. Ao Guang himself did not know why. However, he believed in the irresistible feeling in the bottom of his heart. It was as if it was fated. Chapter 1272. What was out of everyone's expectations was that the Fatty, who was already in a dangerous situation and was sealed by layers of pressure, not only did he not have the slightest intention of dodging, he also did not increase his strength in the slightest. The most exaggerated thing was that even the spinning speed seemed to have suddenly slowed down a lot, allowing everyone to clearly see the Fatty's appearance and movements in the vortex. At this moment, Fatty actually closed his eyes slightly. His hands were slowly drawing circles in the whirlpool that he had formed. He was detached from worldly matters, selfless and forgetful. It was obvious that he had thrown Moke, who was violently attacking him, to the back of his mind and immersed himself in the profound meaning that he had condensed. It seemed slow but was actually fast, fast but was actually slow. Among the cultivators present, not to mention the perfected golden immortal disciples, even the primordial supremacy disciples who came to watch the show, and some of the true immortal stage severing Dao disciples, couldn't determine which stage it was at. Only the experts present looked at Fatty with shock and seriousness in their eyes. "How is it? Is my little brother all right? Aren't you ashamed? Your little brother is really disgusting. It's just average. Although his talent is not bad with his looks, shallow. What's the use of a man's looks? Especially to cultivators, it's even more useless. It's just a stinky skin. Once you reach the peak, you can do whatever you want. Don't deny it. Your eyes have already betrayed your true thoughts. Although I've only cultivated a little of the ancient martial art Tai Chi, I can feel that Fatty has already reached the realm of integrating the profound meaning of space and time into his own absolute space domain. So what? There are plenty of people in our ancient martial arts association who have reached his realm. Who are you trying to fool? You're talking about those above the Grandmist supremacy realm, right? Don't forget, Fatty is only from the Daoist Golden Wonderland. So what? When I was in the Daoist Golden Wonderland, I easily cultivated to such a realm. Rulin, to be honest, I really don't know why you admire him so much. Oh, right, now it's proven your guess. He's indeed a natural ancient martial art genius that's slightly inferior to me. How did you know? I guessed. Bah, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Who would believe that you guessed it? Would you believe me if I said that I saw it from the depths of his eyes? I do. I even believe that you've been bewitched by that damn Fatty's flattery and his talent in painting. You actually revealed such a lustful expression. That's rare, something that only happens once in a million years. Damn girl, do you want to die? Stop spouting nonsense. Don't keep calling me a damn fatty. What's wrong with being a fatty? A vulgar person like you only knows how to judge based on appearances. Victory and defeat are about to be decided. Behind the crowd, above the void, in a space that had transformed a square inch into a heaven and earth, two figures sat cross-legged side by side. They circled around Fatty Li Yuan, discussing and teasing him until Moke and Fatty collided. Boom. Chi 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 chi. Although it seemed like a long story, it actually happened in an instant. Moke used his own body to form an energy ball that was spinning at a high speed. It collided with the energy ball formed by Fatty, who had less energy and a slower spinning speed. In that instant, there was a loud explosion. At the same time, the bright divine light caused many cultivators present to be temporarily blinded. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian all widened their eyes and held their breaths. They were all slightly nervous. With such a huge difference in energy and speed, what kind of backup did Fatty have? The three of them were very clear that Fatty was still hiding a lot of things. They didn't believe that Fatty would be so stupid. This was completely throwing an egg against a rock. When the crowd's eyes adjusted to the strong light, they thought that they would be able to see the scene of Fatty, who wasn't prepared enough, being defeated. He would either be severely injured and controlled by Moke, or be saved by the referee and end the match. However, what the crowd saw was Fatty, who had condensed a small spinning energy ball, being squeezed together with Moke, who was even bigger and faster than Fatty. They were both spinning separately. From afar, it looked like a big round ball and a small round ball were stuck together and spinning separately. The bright divine light was produced from the friction between the two balls. There wasn't a single bit of energy dissipating. It actually wasn't swallowed directly. Fatty's energy is obviously not condensed enough. It's also much thinner. Its speed is also many times slower. Other than a few teachers present, the disciples of the Daoist Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm were all puzzled. With such a huge disparity, Moke should have been able to crush and swallow Fatty's spinning energy ball with an overwhelming advantage. How did it become a stalemate? Furthermore, Fatty's energy ball didn't seem to show any signs of dissipating. How is this possible? Moke, who had taken down Fatty in one move, also exclaimed in shock. Fatty's reply to Moke was his extremely relaxed laughter. Unlike Moke, everyone could clearly see Fatty's every move through the energy ball, which was obviously not spinning fast. At this moment, Fatty was indeed laughing very casually. Even his gaze seemed harmless. However, combined with the current situation, it gave people a feeling that he was openly mocking Moke. Everything is possible in front of Master Fatty. You're still too inexperienced to play Tai Chi with Master Fatty. Understand the essence of the ancient martial art Tai Chi before sparring with Master Fatty. Swallow the mountains and rivers. Buzz. Fatty said arrogantly, swallow the mountains and rivers. Suddenly he used all his strength. In an instant, the divine light emitted from the point of contact between the energy balls became many times brighter. Moke's energy ball started to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye, while Fatty's energy ball became bigger at a speed visible to the naked eye. Impressive. Moke's idea of striking first to gain the upper hand is very good. However, it's a pity that it doesn't work all the time. Especially when it's an ancient martial art Tai Chi against an ancient martial art Tai Chi. Looks like our true martial pavilion is going to win another round. That's right. The profound meaning of the ancient martial art Tai Chi is to use inaction to counterattacks, to gain the upper hand after striking, and to borrow strength to fight strength. However, Moke used his own strength crazily and attacked forcefully. This completely contradicts the profound meaning of Tai Chi. Good job, Fatty. Some of the experts in the crowd realized what was going on and started discussing. Impossible. TSK. As Fatty started to devour, Moke's energy ball instantly lost control. It collapsed and tore apart, then merged into Chenhao's Tai Chi energy ball. It was used by Chenhao. No matter how hard Moke tried, he couldn't stop it. Boom. When Moke's last bit of energy exploded, the expert referee who was monitoring the battle between the two had no choice but to take action. The outcome was already decided. There was no need to let Moke suffer heavy injuries. A streak of divine light as fast as lightning enveloped the ashen-faced and ashamed Moke. Boom, boom, boom. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, Moke was engulfed by the rotating energy ball that Fatty had used all his strength to detonate. Chapter 1273. The Fatty won in just 2 moves. The first move was the instantaneous Great 5 Elements art. The second move was the ancient martial art Taiji Fist. Both moves shocked the crowd and gave them a clearer understanding of the Fatty's strength. However, it was also because of this that everyone felt that the Fatty was unfathomable. Instantaneous Great 5 Elements art, let alone the Daoist Golden Wonderland, how many of the Hongmeng Supreme Immortals could do it? The power of the ancient martial art Taiji Fist was even more obvious. Ancient martial arts promoted the truth that the Tao was the simplest. As long as it was an ancient martial arts lost art, it could only give the practitioner the mental cultivation method and moves of the ancient martial arts. How much power could be unleashed depended on how deep the practitioner's comprehension of the ancient martial arts was, as well as how much of the practitioner's own strength and the law of heaven were integrated into the ancient martial arts mental cultivation method. Fatty Li Yuan's performance was undoubtedly terrifying to the extreme. Ao Guang is the descendant of the Monkey King. I'm afraid he's not much weaker than Qin Ritian. Fatty Li Yuan's performance is unfathomable. It's impossible to measure how strong he is, but he shouldn't be much weaker than Ao Guang and Qin Ritian. This year's challenge is bound to be exciting. Yes. This is just the beginning. I'm really looking forward to it. Ao Guang's identity as the descendant of the Monkey King was exposed, and he defeated the original 8th-ranked expert in a few moves. This caused his position in the hearts of the crowd to soar. Even if the fatty finished his battle, he could only be on par with Ao Guang. This was also considering that the fatty might have hidden his strength. The true martial pavilion won 2 rounds in a row. What a slap in the face. I like it. The Great Transformation Pavilion has always been the top 10 pavilions. They're incomparably arrogant. This time, the true martial pavilion stole the limelight. I'm afraid that they won't be able to regain their face in the challenge. Although Ao Qian and a few others won't be able to change the overall situation, the Great Transformation Pavilion's top 10 spots might be overtaken by the true martial pavilion. There's no doubt about Ao Guang and Li Yuan. We'll know after Xue Fian and Ling Feng's battle. The possibility is very high. That's right. With Ao Guang, Li Yuan, Xue Fian, and Ling Feng, I don't know if the true martial pavilion will be able to become the top student of our school in the Daoist Golden Wonderland. However, it's certain that they'll be able to make it into the top 10. It's very possible for them to make it into the top 3 or 4. Yes, not to mention the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. Murong Qianhua, Xinyuan Qin, and Tang Hu definitely have the qualifications to enter the top 10. The buzzing sounds of discussion caused the great pavilion master and the other teachers who came to watch the battle to have ugly expressions. Even they did not expect Ao Qian to be a direct descendant of the Monkey King. As for Fatty Li Yuan, although they expected Imoka to lose the first challenge, they did not expect Fatty Li Yuan to win so easily. However, what Dahua Pavilion did not expect was that in the following battles, those who targeted Fatty Li Yuan, Monkey Ao Qian, Xue Fian, and Ling Feng all lost their wings. Ling Feng, the little soaring Wind King, displayed unimaginable combat skills and defeated the 2 experts who challenged him. Xue Fian had won both matches with a slight advantage. She didn't look strong on the surface, but anyone with half a brain could figure out why the 2 challengers with a clear gap in strength would always be slightly better than each other. It could only be said that everything was under Xue Fian's control. She was as unfathomable as Fatty. Chen Hao and Ao Qian's second battle was similar to their first battle. They did not reveal anything because of the change in their opponents. Similarly, they won with a strong momentum. Especially Ao Qian, who was still a one-hit deal. It was as if no matter who the opponent was, he would smash them with his stick. No one could stop him. It was a pity that the experts sent by the true martial pavilion to challenge the Great Transformation Pavilion did not succeed except for Wan Yixue, who was unexpected. Wan Yixue used his improved green silk blue ripple technique to make his opponent fall into an illusion. Even so, Wan Yixue's fatal blow was also met with a strong counterattack at the last moment. Wan Yixue was seriously injured and could only be considered a lucky victory. However, even so, everyone was shocked by Wan Yixue's green silk blue ripple technique. At the same time, Chen Hao also understood what Wan Yixue relied on to challenge him. Of course, Chen Hao was not worried at all. On the contrary, he was looking forward to the intoxicating feeling of being immersed in the green silk blue ripple technique. That was simply a cleansing of the soul. On the other side, in the challenge of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, the true martial pavilion was also challenged by Dahua Pavilion. However, Murong Qianhua, Xinyuan Qin, and Tang Hu, who were supposed to challenge the top 10 experts, were even crazier. They ignored the challenge and directly challenged the first, second, and third experts. The performance of the 3 clearly told everyone that the 3 brothers would take the top 3. And they won all the battles on the first day. Next, as long as Xinyuan Qin and Tang Hu challenged the original first place, the 3 of them would be able to sit in the top 3. This hope should not be a problem in everyone's eyes after the performance of the 3 today. tyrannical and domineering, the momentum of directly reaching the top was the best portrayal of the three brothers. At the end of the first day of the challenge, the true martial pavilion was in the limelight, and Dahua Pavilion was extremely frustrated. Dahua Pavilion wanted to regain some face, but they did not expect to be defeated so thoroughly. The first place of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm had fallen, and there was no longer anything to rely on. The only hope was Chen Ritian and the original first expert of the Daoist Golden Wonderland, but it was only the two of them. Even if the two of them could retain the first and second positions, so what? No, I can't let this go no matter what. That night, in the meeting hall of Dahua Pavilion, the pavilion master of Dahua Pavilion was furious. Subsequently, Chen Ritian and the original first expert, who had taken first place with their terrifying results, were summoned by the pavilion master of Dahua Pavilion. Close to Chen Hao, who was already immersed in the immortal world space in the cultivation room, he received a message from the eighth life, Chen Ritian. First, second, third, damn it, that's awesome. Fat brother, although the realms are different, we can't be weak. Should we also challenge the first and second place? The next day, when Chen Hao and the others gathered in the square again, Ao Guang, who had already learned about the situation of Murong Qianhua and the others, said, "Don't think about the first place. I can feel that Chen Ritian is not someone we can compete with for the time being." The fat man said after a slight hesitation. "Fatty, are you sure?" Ling Feng asked with a frown. "Should be, but if you want a challenge, I won't stop you. Go ahead and try. Oh? If I win, does that mean I'll be the first place?" "That depends on me, Ao Guang. Hurry up. Fat brother, do the best. If you're not sure, I'll take the lead. At least you can understand more," Ao Guang said. Chapter 1274. Listen to me. It's best if you don't try. Ao Qian, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian frowned when the fatty spoke again. Clearly, he wasn't joking. "Brother Fatty, did you see something?" Ao Qian asked. "Intuition. I know you're all hiding something, but even if you're all exposed, can you achieve the same results as him? Why didn't the pavilion master arrange for Wan Yishui and the others to challenge him? I think the pavilion master knows very well that none of us can defeat him. I can feel that this person is terrifying. If we meet now, I don't have the slightest confidence. Therefore, I don't recommend that you challenge him now," Chen Hao said. Chen Hao really didn't want the three of them to challenge Chen Ritian. Since he wanted the name, Chen Ritian, to spread as quickly as possible, how could he lose in the academy? The first place would always be the focus of attention. Even if the second place and first place were similar in strength, they would still be overshadowed by the first place. This was the reality. "All right. Since Brother Fatty said so, we'll let it go for now. I didn't expect Murong Qianhua and the others to be so strong. They're going to take care of the top three in Hongming," Ao Qian said gloomily. In fact, they didn't plan to challenge Chen Ritian from the beginning. Just as the fatty said, they didn't have the confidence. The reason they wanted to take the risk today was because they were provoked by Murong Qianhua and the others. They're indeed strong, but they were lucky to be able to take care of the top three. I can only say that the top three in Hongmeng are a little weak. Since Brother Fatty said so, we'll let it go for now. After all, we're the Daoist Golden Wonderland. We'll have plenty of chances in the future. Ling Feng agreed with Chen Hao's point of view. As for Xue Fian, although she didn't say anything, she went with the flow. If they wanted to do it, she would do it. If they didn't want to do it, then so be it. However, there were some things that Chen Hao and the others couldn't control. Just as Chen Hao finished talking with Ao Qian and the others, Chen Ritian and the others from the Great Transformation Pavilion arrived. Chen Hao's face turned green when he communicated with Chen Ritian. "I challenge Ling Feng. I challenge Ao Qian." Chen Ritian, who was in first place, and Yun Tian, who was in second place, issued a challenge the moment the judge announced the start of the registration for the day. Yun Tian, the former chief disciple of the Daoist Golden Celestial Stage of the Daluo Golden Celestial Stage, had actually challenged Ling Feng, who was ranked in the 20s. What was even more outrageous was that Chen Ritian, who was ranked first, had actually taken the initiative to challenge the descendant of the Monkey King, Ao Qian. How could the others not be shocked? After all, the challenge, to challenge a challenge, was it? Ao. T have a challenge is a T challenge whose S's was lowers challenging A's, S8. Teet, Qian Teet Ao Di S, Tian, Qiant, I challenge Shui Fian. The Qianti this Otes. He'd been challenged twice yesterday, plus his's. Hence, he could challenge 3 people today. It was obvious that he was targeting Chen Hao and the others. At the same time, Chen Ritian, who no one dared to challenge, received 3 challenges today. All of them were from the Qian Pavilion. It was obvious that the Qian Pavilion had purposely arranged this for Chen Ritian so that he'd have 3 more challenges. First round, Challenger Yun Tian, Challenger Ling Feng, please come on stage. After the registration ended, Yun Tian, who had 3 challenges, became the first in the first round. The person he challenged was Ling Feng, the first person he challenged. Yun Tian, the Qian Pavilion's Daoist Golden Wonderlands. Before Chen Ritian's, his was always first. He'd been dominating for more than 1,000 years. In the eyes of the Qian Pavilion's master, he was the only one who stood a chance against Chen Ritian. After this challenge, he'd set foot in the Hongming region and draw a line with the Daoist Golden Wonderland. How strong was he? The masters sent by the true martial pavilion yesterday couldn't even force Yun Tian to show his true strength. They were already the 2 strongest in the true martial pavilion's originals. Yun Tian. The moment Yun Tian stepped onto the stage, countless cultivators with the Qian Pavilion as the center started to shout crazily. Ling Feng took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage under immense pressure. Ling Feng knew very well that there wasn't much hope for him to defeat Yun Tian. Otherwise, he wouldn't have listened to Chen Hao's suggestion to not challenge the first and second Chen Ritian and Yun Tian. However, now that Yun Tian had taken the initiative to challenge him, Ling Feng and the rest had no choice but to step up. Unfortunately, 3 minutes later, Ling Feng, who had never tasted defeat, was defeated. Even though Ling Feng displayed his super strong combat power, he still couldn't stop the Qian Pavilion's S. After the start of the second round, the judge arranged for the fatty, who was supposed to fight before Shui Fian, to fight with the challenger, Yun Tian. Shui Fian lost 5 minutes later. After Shui Fian stepped out of the stage expressionlessly, Chen Hao frowned and asked, "You didn't use your full strength?" This was because Shui Fian didn't reveal her true form even when she was defeated. "I didn't have the chance to use my full strength. His combat skills are very strong, and he has already comprehended the laws of space and time. If I'm not wrong, he should have already comprehended the Hongmeng Qi and obtained the Great World Imprint. He's almost done with it, and he's only missing the last step. That's why he used the Great World domain to suppress me from the start. You have to be careful later. You can either use your full strength or just admit defeat." Shui Fian looked at Ling Feng with a hint of dissatisfaction. Cough cough. "He didn't use it on me at all. How can I not tell you?" Ling Feng hurriedly explained. "I want to be the boss, and I don't want to use others to compare our strength. Believe it or not, I was looked down upon by Yun Tian, and I even lost to him." Ling Feng clenched his fists in frustration. He was clearly not convinced. "Fuck, look at me going crazy in the third round. Fuck, so what if it's Chen Ritian? Kill him. Brother Fatty, let's turn this around. Let's do our best." Chen Hao shrugged. He knew in his heart that it was impossible to turn this around. Chen Ritian wouldn't allow failure. Although Ao Guang was strong, he wasn't a threat to the 8th anima. Therefore, at best, he could only take down Yun Tian himself. As for whether he could do so, Chen Hao wasn't sure. Yun Tian was very strong. He hadn't revealed his full strength when he defeated Ling Feng and Shui Fian. He indeed had the strength to defeat Chen Ritian, which was also his own strength. I owe 3 chapters. I'll start to make up for it tomorrow. Future updates will be around 10 a.m. Chapter 1275. There was always someone better than you. Yun Tian's performance made Xianhao realize that the top geniuses of the top academies didn't count for much. They only sounded a little awesome. The top examinees of the various great academies were the true geniuses. Even in the second-rate academies, third-rate academies, and even fourth-rate academies, there were many true geniuses. Yun Tian was the best proof. In the third round, Fatty Li Yuan and Yun Tian's battle was arranged before Chen Ritian and Ao Qian. After Fatty and Yun Tian entered the arena, they didn't say a word. The moment the restrictions on the arena disappeared, the two of them attacked at the same time. Yun Tian was determined to win. The energy around him surged like the sea. With a wave of his hand, space collapsed and time distorted. The strength he displayed was even more terrifying than when he faced Ling Feng and Xuefian. Such a situation also made everyone understand that Yun Tian didn't use his full strength in the previous battle. That was indeed the case. Yun Tian challenged three monstrous geniuses at once. Even if he was confident in his own strength, he still had to treat it seriously, especially Fatty Li Yuan. First, Fatty had obtained heaven-defying results when he just entered the academy. He was a level higher than Xuefian and Ling Feng. Moreover, this was because Fatty didn't understand the rules and lost a lot of foundation points. Yun Tian had no choice but to pay attention to it. Second, Fatty had revealed too many monstrous talents. He was proficient in the ancient martial art Taiji Fist and had comprehended a realm that only the Grand Mist Supremacy realm could comprehend. He was also proficient in painting and calligraphy. Yun Tian naturally knew what this meant. Third, Fatty's life force wasn't the youngest in the Daoist Golden Wonderland, but he was definitely the youngest to reach his level of strength. Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, Fatty Li Yuan was the most dangerous existence among Ling Feng and Xuefian. He wasn't inferior to the Monkey King's descendant, Ao Qian. Boom! Rumble! Yun Tian's fists flickered incessantly, causing the void to tremble. Every single punch was domineering and peerless in might. What was even more shocking was that the strength of every single punch was capable of surpassing the restraints of the arena's barrier and devouring the spiritual energy in the surroundings. It was truly profound. It had to be said that this was the strongest opponent Xianhao had ever encountered in the same realm. Xianhao only took a few punches head-on before he changed his tactics. He displayed the ancient martial art Taiji Fist, using softness to overcome strength. He borrowed strength to counter strength and neutralized the opponent's ferocious attacks. Even so, the fat on Fatty's body was still trembling. His big butt shook violently from time to time as he used greater teleportation to dodge Yun Tian's fierce and sharp attacks. It couldn't be helped. Yun Tian, who had extremely powerful combat skills, was actually able to shatter space-time with his fist by relying on his tyrannical strength and condense a great world domain to suppress Xianhao. Every time he attacked the trajectory of Xianhao's Taiji Fist, Xianhao felt extremely stifled. However, the scene that the onlooking cultivators saw was completely different from what Xianhao felt. In 2 days, Yun Tian had already gone through 4 battles and fully displayed his strength. In everyone's opinion, it would only take him a few minutes to defeat Fatty Li Yuan. After all, Ling Feng and Xuefian had already been defeated. Although Fatty was slightly stronger, Yun Tian was undoubtedly stronger. After all, this was the chief disciple who had dominated for more than 1,000 years. How could he be so easily shaken? However, 10 minutes had passed, and the state of the two's battle seemed to be no different from when it had just started. Fatty was still in a state of complete suppression, but he was still able to defend his final line of defense. Yun Tian was unable to break through. This situation shocked everyone, especially the teachers who knew Yun Tian's strength. They looked at Fatty with even more puzzled eyes. What kind of monster was this damn Fatty? He was clearly in a situation where he was being beaten, and he had been doing so for more than 10 minutes. How could he not be flustered? This was very inconceivable. After all, in a situation where one was suppressed, one had to rely on energy to resist. For more than 10 minutes, and under such ferocious attacks, not to mention anything else, just the consumption should be enough to make Fatty collapse. However, Fatty was still performing Taiji Fist, occasionally swinging his big butt. His essence, qi, and spirit did not seem to have decreased at all. On the contrary, Yun Tian's forehead was slightly sweaty. His face was flushed, and his breathing was heavy. How could this be? Countless people were puzzled. However, very quickly, some of the teachers present saw some clues and answered the doubts in everyone's hearts. At the same time, everyone looked at Fatty with eyes filled with envy and jealousy. What a powerful physical body, what a majestic blood qi. This damn Fatty, looks like we've underestimated him. He's practically relying entirely on the strength of his fleshly body to resist. His true essence and divine sense are merely a decoy to recover his body. This little Fatty is truly unfathomable. If this continues, even Yun Tian will be ground to death by him. The teachers of the large pavilion frowned and discussed, their worried expressions overflowing. I'm sure that Brother Fatty will win. Back then, wasn't one Ishui worn down by Brother Fatty until he couldn't resist? Ao Qian said. Motherfucker, all the fat on Fatty's body is actually used to store energy. Ling Feng was dumbfounded. He had already experienced Yun Tian's strength. Up until now, he had to admit that the Fatty's strength was indeed unfathomable. The Fatty's body created by the Great Change art was completely a shell for him to hide his true strength. He couldn't help but say, Big brother, I'm really curious what the Fatty looks like. What does he look like? Cough, cough, what I mean is, what kind of person or monster is Fatty? His physical strength, blood qi, and endurance are so strong, so abnormal. As long as the opponent's strength is not absolutely suppressed, it's impossible to win against him. Ling Feng hurriedly added. The fact that he and Fatty both used the Great Change art was their secret. Even Ao Qian, Xuefian, and the rest could not tell them. Yun Tian, who was in the middle of the battle, was fine at the beginning. However, as time passed, he became anxious. Whether it's strength, speed, or the law of divine sense, I'm stronger than him. If I'm tortured to death by him, where will my face go? No, I can't lose to him. Boom. With a loud explosion, Yun Tian suddenly released a powerful attack, causing the meatball-like Fatty to retreat. At the same time, his body moved horizontally, making the first retreat since the start of the battle. After stabilizing his body, Yun Tian suddenly opened his arms and roared into the sky. The essence, qi, and spirit of his body instantly gushed out. Damn Fatty, I've underestimated you. However, if you want to torture me to death, don't even think about it. Today, I'll allow you and all the Golden Immortals at the Golden Immortal Realm to witness my strongest attack. As Yun Tian spoke for the first time, an extremely powerful aura was released from his body along with the eruption of his essence, qi, and spirit. It went from weak to strong, rising rapidly. His gaze was like an unsheathed sword, sweeping across the surrounding cultivators. It was not only in the direction of Ao Qian and the rest, but also where Chen Ritian was. Yun Tian's gaze was filled with battle intent and disdain. Chapter 1276. A terrifying pressure swept out, causing the crowd to fall silent. Only the fluctuations of the heavens and the earth could be heard as the wind howled and howled. The Fatty, who seemed to be forced to deal with it, did not have much of a change in his expression in the face of Yun Tian's soaring aura and rolling pressure. He only narrowed his eyes and his pupils constricted, emitting an even sharper light. He said calmly and aggressively, Your strongest attack? It's indeed a very strong aura, but it's not up to you to decide whether I can wear you down. Bring it on. Grandpa Fatty wants to see how strong your strongest attack is. As the Fatty spoke, waves of powerful fluctuations abruptly gushed out from his body. Boundless blood qi actually faintly condensed into blood-red phantoms around him, making the Fatty look like a person suffused with blood-red light. At the same time, a blood-red light shot out from the Fatty's forehead in all directions. An intense slaughter will bloomed. Clearly, the Fatty did not dare to be careless about Yun Tian's so-called strongest attack. He used the slaughter will that he had revealed before, which was seen by everyone as an inheritance. Moreover, it was a slaughter will that had given birth to a trace of intelligence. Boom, 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 boom. Because of the two people's soaring auras, the arena instantly became abnormally violent. Just the collision of their auras caused the heavens and the earth to tremble. Explosions occurred one after another. The dense spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth and Tao laws in the air showed signs of collapsing, being annihilated, and then reforming. Then come golden sun illumination. Boom. In the air above the arena, a cold light shot out from Yun Tian's eyes. He suddenly pushed out a palm. In an instant, a huge palm that bloomed with golden light shot out violently from his palm. The golden light palm was the lead, and the golden light pillar was the bridge. It was as if Yun Tian's arm was endlessly extending. It carried an unparalleled profundity, power, and pressure as it blasted towards the fatty. There was no strongest absolute art in the world. The same absolute art would have different effects when practiced by different people. It was hard to judge the absolute nature of the absolute art. However, to an individual, the strongest absolute art was the one that suited him or herself, the absolute art that comprehended the Tao. The golden sun illuminating world palm was Yun Tianwu's ultimate technique. This technique condensed his entire life's cultivation and strength, combined his comprehension of the laws of the great Tao with his own physical condition, fusing them into one. Without a doubt, this was his strongest technique. Golden sun illuminating the world? The fatty's pupils shrank and a trace of seriousness appeared between his brows. Immediately after, he exhaled and said, "Mighty King Kong Palm. Chi." The fatty blasted out a palm. The essence, chi, spirit, zhenyuan, and physical strength of his body immediately surged out along his 8 extraordinary meridians like a river bursting through a dam. A golden palm shadow, the size of Chenhao's palm, shot out the moment Chenhao's arm was fully extended. It was also a golden palm, but it did not expand at all. It also did not have the majestic aura created by Yun Tian's golden sun illuminating the world. It was also not connected to Yun Tian's body and did not extend out of his body to control and supply energy at any time. However, the fatty's small golden palm was condensed to the extreme. Its speed was astonishing, and it carried an unimaginable penetrative power. When it collided with Yun Tian's palm, it actually pierced through Yun Tian's huge palm like a hot knife through butter. Bang! A low collision sound came from Yun Tian's chest at the speed of light and sparks, rippling through the entire arena. The fatty's palm penetrated too quickly. It was so fast that Yun Tian, who was using his divine sense to control the golden sun illuminating the world, could not react in time at all. It had already hit his chest. Poof! Then, Yun Tian's expression changed greatly. His chest suddenly rose and fell violently. At the same time, he uncontrollably spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Wang wang wang. In an instant, extremely profound runes condensed around Yun Tian's body one after another. His expression became even more terrifying, and the space between his eyebrows bloomed like a scorching sun. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the fatty, and at the same time, they became even crazier. At this moment, everyone present was stunned. The scene of the battle between the two was indescribably strange. Many cultivators did not even know what was going on. They only knew that Fatty Li Yuan and Yun Tian's battle had reached a critical moment. They also saw Fatty Li successfully penetrate Yun Tian's attack with his seemingly condensed but not very powerful palm and hit Yun Tian's chest. However, other than a crazed expression and a little pain, Yun Tian's body did not show any violent reaction. At the same time, although the golden sun illuminating the world that Yun Tian had condensed was pierced through by Chenhao's palm, it did not panic at all and maintained its attack. Ruthless! At this moment, Fatty Li Yuan's voice sounded from the arena. Rumble! Soon after, the fatty's figure was engulfed by the terrifying golden palm energy in front of countless shocked gazes. Arrows of blood turned into a bloody mist, appearing exceptionally dazzling under the golden energy light. At the same time, the fatty's ear-piercing, pig-like screams also caused the surrounding onlookers to be horrified. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Shui Fian, Su Tao, In Su Su, and the other members of the Carnage battle team held their breaths and clenched their fists. Yun Tian originally thought that the tanky fatty would be able to grind his opponent to death in this match. Unfortunately, Yun Tian's battle experience was very rich. He didn't give Chen Hao the chance to grind him to death at all. Yun Tian decisively used his strongest attack to end the battle quickly. Not to mention Ling Feng and Shui Fian, even the Monkey King's descendant, Ao Guang, who was known for his tyrannical strength, felt threatened by the power of the golden sun illuminating world palm. If it were him, Ao Guang also did not think that he would be able to receive this move. "Hold on, fatty bro." Ao Guang gnashed his teeth and said, "Fatty bro." Su Tao and the rest could only murmur, "What a terrible scream." When Shui Fian heard the fatty's shrill scream, she was no longer nervous. The battle was over, and the fatty's defeat was already decided. The teacher was in control of the arena, so the fatty's life was not in danger. "Fatty, why are you still holding on? It's fine if you lost. Just come again next time. Hurry up and admit defeat," Ling Feng said. "Fuck, admit defeat my ass. At most, fatty bro will be severely injured. It's not like he will lose his combat ability. There's still hope until the last moment." Ao Guang glared at Ling Feng and retorted, "Hold my ass. I've already lost. Fian has also lost. Fatty is only slightly stronger," Ling Feng said. Previously, he still hoped that the fatty could win. Now that he saw that the fatty had lost all hope, he accepted it as a matter of course. After all, he was a show-off, and he did not want to be below the fatty. Add 1, still 02. Chapter 1277. Yun Tian Dao Enlightenment's golden sun illumination finally ran out of energy, the dazzling golden light disappeared, the dust settled, and at the core of the ripple, the fatty's pig-like howl also disappeared. At this moment, everyone's gaze was attracted to the figure at the core of the ripple. All of them gasped as their eyes widened in shock. They simply could not believe what they saw, a bloody figure. A badly mutilated figure. Other than the fat face that was still intact, allowing everyone to know that he was Fatty Li Yuan, that badly mutilated figure that was so slim that it was almost the same as a normal person, there was no trace of the fatty at all. Such a scene, everyone understood that the terrifying explosion must have shaved off the fatty's flesh. Such a scene caused everyone's hair to stand on end, and at the same time, they were even more shocked. Dense Dao mark aura surrounded the fatty's badly mutilated body, preventing his body from recovering and healing. Blood was still flowing out, and the wounds on his body were still increasing, but the slaughter intent between the fatty's eyebrows became even more intense. His entire essence, energy, and vitality seemed to have a final radiance. Not only did it not weaken, it actually began to soar again. How is this possible? Chi. At this moment, not many people noticed that the victor in everyone's heart, Yun Tian, had a crazed expression ever since the fatty's palm landed on his chest. The energy fluctuation around his body was intense. It was obvious that he was suppressing the palm force that the fatty poured into his body. At this moment, he, who thought that victory was imminent, looked at the fatty with a shocked expression, and even fear. Comparing ruthlessness? The person who can compete with me, Fatty Yi, in terms of ruthlessness has yet to be born. Do you still need me, Fatty Yi, to make a move? What no one expected was that the fatty suddenly spoke. This puzzled everyone. After all, no matter how they looked at it, the fatty was in a worse state. It gave them the feeling that he would not be able to last much longer. You want me to admit defeat? Dream on. You are in a worse state than me now. Although I can't break your Dao mark, I can still suppress it. What about you? Humph. My Dao comprehending ultimate skill, golden sun illuminates the world, is not something you can break. How long can you last? Yun Tian said disdainfully. He originally thought that his attack would directly cause the fatty to lose his ability to fight, and at that time, his mind would naturally lose control of his palm. In that case, he could easily dissolve the fatty's palm force Dao mark in his body. But he didn't expect that even after the fatty's flesh was shaved off, His mind was still controlling his palm force. This shocked him, but he didn't think that the fatty situation was better than his. I won't be able to hold on for too long, just a few minutes at most. Ha! In a matter of minutes, you have the nerve to ask me to admit defeat? What a joke! If I had known earlier, I would have used less power to suppress your Dao marks and you would have already lost. And you want me to admit defeat? The one who should admit defeat is you. The conversation between the two made all the cultivators aware of their current situation. It was obvious that they had entered a stalemate. Everyone looked at Fatty, then looked at Yuntian. For a moment, everyone fell silent. In the entire plaza, there was only the sound of the Fatty and Yuntian resisting each other's Dao marks, as well as the faint sound of energy circulation. Whose energy could last until the end? Sigh. Fatty suddenly shook his head and sighed, then said, "Since you don't admit defeat, then don't blame me for being impolite. Teachers, you have to monitor well. If someone dies, it has nothing to do with me. Yuntian, Fatty Knight, I seriously advise you to admit defeat." What? Everyone was stunned by the Fatty's words. Dream on. What a joke. Now, what power do you have to take my life? All right, this is your choice, Buzz. Just as the Fatty finished speaking, his glabella suddenly shook. Wait. Right at this moment, the referee on the stage suddenly shouted. At the same time, his glabella also released a beam of light that came between the Fatty and Yuntian. Li Yuan, you have the ability to detonate your Dao marks? The referee went straight to the point. Of course. Teacher, if you delay my time like this, you know that I won't be able to hold on for long. Don't worry. The referee's expression didn't change at all. He suddenly opened his hand and sucked at Yuntian. In an instant, endless mysterious runes appeared out of nowhere. The next moment, Yuntian's chest made a buzz, sound, and a golden palm flew out. It could be seen at a glance that it was the mighty Vajra palm that the Fatty had used before. Phew! Yuntian instantly let out a long sigh of relief. His twisted and crazy expression immediately relaxed a lot. The pain disappeared, but he was still imprisoned and couldn't move. Detonation successful. You win, Yuntian loses. Old man used Yuntian's strength to suppress and protect, so it's barely fair. Begin. The Fatty was slightly stunned, then he shook his head and accepted the referee's method. His glabella shook again, and a beam of light cut through the void. Boom. Rumble. In an instant, the golden palm that was moved out of Yuntian's body released an incomparably resplendent light. It was as if a scorching sun had exploded. Golden light shot out in all directions, and a loud sound shook the heavens. The terrifying explosion wave swept through the heavens and earth. It wasn't inferior to when Yuntian had used his enlightenment technique to bombard the Fatty. Impossible? How is this possible? Yuntian's eyes widened in shock and fear. He was certain that if the Fatty's Dao mark had detonated in his body, he would definitely have turned into dust. The referee wouldn't have been able to save him in time. Fortunately, the Fatty didn't have the intention to take his name. To be precise, the Fatty spared his life. The cultivators around the stage all sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with horror as they looked at the Fatty who was covered in blood. What kind of abnormal existence was this? Brother Fatty is here. Brother Fatty is mighty. On the third day, early in the morning when the Fatty, Ao Guang, and the rest arrived, it caused a commotion in the crowd. The Fatty had defeated the previous ducks, Yuntian, yesterday. His fame and reputation had become even greater. Later on, Ao Guang and Xianxia had a fierce battle, and Ao Guang was defeated. Li Yuan. So cute, so powerful. I still prefer Ling Feng. He's handsome and strong, pleasing to the eye. I like Monkey King Ao Guang. If I were to follow him, who would dare to bully me in this world? All right, Xianxia is the most handsome, the strongest. It's just that he's too cold, making people unable to get close to him. However, this kind of person, if you could conquer his heart, you would definitely become the happiest woman in the world. Stop dreaming. I'm afraid that only the monstrous genius young ladies from the top academies and the first academy would be able to catch Chen Ritian's eyes. That's right. Chen Ritian doesn't have any emotional fluctuations at all. When he was fighting Ao Guang yesterday, it was really too terrifying. He was even more violent than the Monkey King's descendant. Using violence to curb violence, he's really too strong. There's still a good show to watch today. According to the people from Great Transformation Pavilion, Chen Ritian will challenge the fatty, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian today. Yesterday, Great Transformation Pavilions and Trio symbolically challenged him so that they would have the right to challenge him today. The crowd was buzzing with discussion. This was also the biggest highlight of the day. I have something on today, so I won't make up for it. I'll just do it today. Chapter 1278. I challenge Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and Li Yuan. Just as everyone expected, Chen Ritian's cold voice sounded the moment the registration started. Although this kind of battle where a high-ranking person challenged a low-ranking person was meaningless, the Great Transformation Pavilion, which had lost all face, treated this as their only chance to regain some face. However, Yun Tian's defeat yesterday caused the mood of the Great Transformation Pavilion's pavilion master and the others to become a little heavy and perturbed. However, there was no turning back for an arrow that had been shot. Although the arrangement yesterday was not made clear, it had already been made known to everyone. Chen Ritian was the same as Yun Tian and would also challenge Li Yuan, Ao Guang, and Xue Fian. How could Chen Ritian, who had obtained 3 challenges today, give up? If that happened, everyone would think that the Great Transformation Pavilion thought that Chen Ritian wasn't as good as Fatty. Therefore, regardless of victory or defeat, he had to fight. In the first round, Chen Ritian defeated Ling Feng with his ferocious and fierce attacks. In the second round, Chen Ritian also defeated Xue Fian. However, this time, Xue Fian didn't reveal her true identity, which confused everyone. After all, Chen Ritian didn't have the suppression of Yun Tian's realm, so it wouldn't be a problem for Xue Fian to reveal her true identity. Moreover, even if Chen Ritian had the suppression of his realm, who didn't know how strong Chen Ritian was? No one could stop him from revealing his true identity from the start. However, although these 2 battles were exciting, the outcome was within everyone's expectations. There wasn't much to look forward to. What everyone was looking forward to was the battle between Fatty Li Yuan and Chen Ritian. If Fatty Li Yuan was able to defeat Yun Tian, a veteran first seat, then his chances of defeating Heavenly Empress Chen Ri would be at least on par with her. No one could be sure who would win or lose. They would only know after the battle. The last battle of the day. The challenger is Chen Ritian from the Great Transformation Pavilion. The challenger is Li Yuan from the Real Martial Pavilion. Please come on stage. Whoosh. Chen Ritian. Victory. Chen Ritian. Victory. Brother Fatty will win. Brother Fatty will win. In an instant, all the cultivators in the square cheered for their idol. What Chen Hao did not expect was that his popularity was on par with Chen Hao's. Let alone Chen Hao, even the teachers, Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and the others didn't think of this. After all, Chen Ritian, who had incredible results, was extremely handsome and was even able to defeat the Monkey King's descendant with violence, was more suitable to be an idol than the fatty. In the crowd, Yun Tian, who could be said to have been spared by the fatty yesterday, had a gaze as calm as water. He stared at the fatty's fat buttocks flying towards the stage without any ripples in his eyes. It was impossible to tell if he was happy, angry, sad, or happy, but one could be sure that there was no trace of hatred in his eyes. I hope that you'll be the first seat. Yun Tian stared at the fatty and thought to himself. In order to protect the title of the first seat of the Dahua court, he had wasted 1,000 years and confined himself in the Daoist Golden Wonderland. 1,000 years might not be much in the long life of a cultivator, but to a true monstrous genius who was about to step onto the path of the immortal emperor, it was extremely precious. How big was the loss of such a sacrifice? It was very, very big. However, with the appearance of Chen Ritian, the head of the Dahua court, his teacher, He had to give up his final glory. He was very unwilling. Stepping into Hongmeng with the glory of being the first seat was what he wanted. It was also the best way to gather providence. However, his teacher did not allow him to challenge Qin Ritian. After dominating for 1,000 years, he had to give up just like that. Who would be willing to do that? However, he could only obey. Now, deep in his heart, he did not hesitate to throw away his identity as a disciple of the Dehua court. He hoped to use his strength to defeat the fatty Li Yuan fair and square to obtain the title of first seat. Only then would he be convinced. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Streams of light converged from all directions toward the square where the Daoist Golden Wonderland was located. The referee intentionally placed the battle between the fatty Li Yuan and Qin Ritian as the last match of the day. This caused many cultivators from the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm and the teachers who were watching the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm competition to rush over. Although this was only the battle between the top in the Daoist Golden Wonderland, there was no doubt that this was the most anticipated battle in this year's preliminary ranking challenge. It was even more anticipated than the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm's Murong Qianhua, Xinyuan Qin, and Tanghu. This was because of the heaven-defying results of Qin Ritian and the equally heaven-defying fatty Li Yuan. Murong Qianhua, Xinyuan Qin, and Tanghu also appeared in the spectator area at the same time. They stood with their hands behind their backs and looked coldly at the arena. They did not seem to care much about the battle between the fatty and Qin Ritian. However, since they had come, how could they not care? Hiss, hiss, hiss. In the arena, the fatty squinted his eyes. He had a harmless smile on his face as he stared at the cold-looking Qin Ritian who was filled with murderous intent. "You're very strong." To everyone's surprise, the cold and silent Qin Ritian could not help but speak first. Moreover, he was praising the other party. "You're very strong too," the fatty said with a smile. "However, no matter how strong you are, today, I hope to have a fair, all-out, and unreserved battle. No matter if I win or lose." Qin Ritian's eyes shone brightly as he looked straight at Qin Hao. "No problem. It's absolutely fair, all-out, and unreserved. Go all out. If you can win against me, you're capable." The fatty squinted his eyes and said straightforwardly. Although the spectating cultivators felt that the conversation between the two was a little strange, they did not take it seriously. They only thought that Qin Ritian and the fatty could feel each other's strength. Perhaps they were a little sympathetic towards each other, which was why they had such a conversation. However, they did not know that the conversation between the two actually had a hidden meaning. Qin Ritian was the eighth life that was derived from Qin Hao's massacre will. Like the other lives, he had his own consciousness and thoughts. Even though Qin Hao had connected the memories and thoughts of his original body and the eighth life for convenience, he could not avoid the selfish thoughts that came with having his own consciousness. Qin Ritian's words were actually a chance for a fair battle. In other words, he did not want Qin Hao to use his original body's consciousness to suppress and order him around. Qin Hao's reply was naturally to agree to his request. As the original body, how could the fatty allow his clone to provoke him? No matter what, he had to absolutely suppress him. Buzz. Buzz. The moment the imprisonment runes on the arena disappeared, the fatty's glabella shook. He immediately held the Overlord's spear horizontally in his hand. At the same time, what made the crowd exclaim in shock and excitement was that the glabella of the fatty emitted an extremely bright blood-red glow. "Massacre will. Are you sure? Master Fatty will naturally treat you the same way you treat my brothers and sisters. It's just the massacre will. Haven't you heard that it's also one of Master Fatty's strongest unique skills? I also heard that your massacre will has already gained sentience. If you use it too much, you won't even know how you died. It's just gaining sentience. As long as Master Fatty is willing, I can destroy it with a thought. Cut the crap. Take this." Buzz. The fatty became one with his spear and suddenly attacked. Chapter 1279. Bush. The spear and man crossed the void and turned into a ball of blood-red light, rushing toward Qin Ritian at an astonishing speed. Strong attack. the sudden change happened in the blink of an eye. None of the cultivators in the Daoist Golden Wonderland could react in time. Even the cold-blooded Xianxia only reacted when Chen Hao's spear was about to reach him. Fast. That was the only word that could describe Fatty's sharp and stunning spear. Thinking about it in Fatty's shoes, many cultivators broke out in cold sweat. If they were in Fatty's shoes, they would definitely be stabbed through the heart by Fatty's spear. Is this Fatty's true strength? Countless people were shocked. However, after a moment, what shocked them even more was whoosh. Xianxia, who could not react in time, retreated as fast as lightning when Fatty, who had become one with the spear, was about to reach him. At the same time, his hands shone with endless runes and he clapped his palms together. Buzz. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The entire square, other than the sound of people sucking in cold breaths, was terrifyingly silent. Everyone was shocked. Xianxia, who had retreated and clapped his palms together, was able to clamp Fatty's overlord spear between his palms in an instant. Those incomparably resplendent and mysterious runes had actually condensed in an instant. What kind of terrifying ability was this? If that was all, it would have been fine. However, he actually managed to stop Fatty's stunning spear. Under the collision of the divine powers, there was no scene of violent energy wreaking havoc. There was only the collision of the two Dao runes. Celestial light shone brightly, changing rapidly. They are competing in the comprehension of the Dao laws and the massacre will. An expert in the crowd said, "They are so strong." As the Fatty's overlord spear swallowed and spat, it was filled with endless mysterious Dao laws. Xianxia used both of his palms as support and runes appeared out of thin air. Both of their eyebrows faced each other, and their killing intent actually condensed into a substantial light that collided with each other. For a moment, not to mention the Daoist Golden Immortals, even the experts and teachers present, including the pavilion master of the true immortal king realm, couldn't tell who had the upper hand between the two. These are the two strongest people in our academy's Daoist Golden Wonderland. However, this is only temporary. Whether or not they will be the strongest in the future is uncertain. Oh? You mean the descendant of the Monkey King, Ao Guang, and her disciple, Xuefian? That's right. Other than the two of them, Little Wind King Ling Feng can't be underestimated either. What do you think? Not bad, right? If it was 100 years ago, it would naturally be very good, or rather, very strong. But now, old Cheng, wait until you see the top 100 of our Tanglong Academy. You'll know. If nothing unexpected happens, we'll break our record of 4 consecutive victories. Dream on. He had gotten 3 consecutive victories out of sheer luck, and he wanted to get 4 consecutive victories? You're dreaming, old man. There's no point in talking too much. We'll see the results in half a year. In the air, Cheng Wanxiang, the dean of the University of Dehua, and Li Wuxiang, the dean of the Tanglong Academy, were arguing with each other. It was an indisputable fact that a great era had come. The Tanglong Academy, which was also a first-class academy, was also very lucky. This year, they had recruited several incredible geniuses, which were not inferior to the University of Dehua at all. Because of this, they were able to remain calm in the face of Fatty Li Yuan and Xianxia. Both of their slaughter wills are very strong, but why do they give me a feeling that they're of the same origin? Li Wuxiang's mind was immersed in the arena. After carefully sensing the battle for a while, he suddenly frowned and said, "But you have the same feeling too? Then it seems that my feeling was right. How strange." Cheng Wanxiang was quite surprised. This was because when he carefully sensed, he also noticed that the slaughter wills of Li Yuan and Xianxia were very similar. There were many similarities, as if they were of the same origin. This was very inconceivable. After all, the birth of any will was formed by the cultivator's own experiences, feelings, emotions, temperament, outlook on life, worldview, Taoism, and many other factors. It must have its own unique aura. It was very difficult for different people to have similar auras. This was like the same kind of martial arts practiced by different people. When they displayed it, they would have their own brand. However, the slaughter wills of Li Yuan and Xianxia were shockingly similar, as if they were of the same origin. It's really strange. It seems that the experiences, temperament, emotions, and other aspects of these two people must have a lot in common. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so similar, maybe? Cheng Wanxiang replied, but the strangeness in his heart did not diminish at all. Li Wuxiang was not clear about Fatty Li Yuan's and Chen Ritian's personalities. Through his understanding of them during this period of time, he was more or less clear. The two of them could be said to be completely unrelated. At least on the surface, their personalities and temperaments were absolutely incompatible. How could they give birth to such similar killing intent auras? Unless one of them was hiding their true character. Although both of them knew about the 9 lives secret skill of the Star River King, let alone them, even the pavilion master of the true martial pavilion, Mo Shilin, who had cultivated half of the 9 lives secret skill, could not sense it at all, let alone others. There was another point. The 9 lives secret skill inheritance left by the Star River King was extremely rare in the entire the great world of Xiandi. Therefore, the two of them did not even think about the 9 lives secret skill. Besides, even if there was a 9 lives secret skill, no one would be so bored as to do it with 2 people. Boom. Rumble. The two of them competed with their slaughter wills and Dao Law runes for a full 3 minutes. When the outcome could not be determined, Chen Ritian took the lead and pushed his palms forward, detonating the energy around his body and officially starting the battle. No one noticed the smug look in the depths of the fatty's eyes. It seemed that they were evenly matched, and in fact, they were evenly matched. However, for Chen Hao and Chen Ritian, the winner of the slaughter wills and Dao Law runes had already been determined in their hearts, especially in the slaughter wills. One was the 8th life derived from the slaughter wills, while the other was the slaughter wills that had been completely hollowed out by the 8th life. In such a short period of time, it was clear who would win and who would lose. Bang, bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, the two figures intertwined with each other in close combat. They were as fast as lightning, and every time they exchanged a blow, violent energy would surge out from their bodies, condensing into mysterious and complicated runes at the point of collision. Although the battle scene did not explode with powerful energy, it still left everyone dumbfounded. They could not help but admire the abnormality of the two. The divine ability laws were simply at their fingertips. Moreover, they were all complicated and mysterious. How many people could do that? Supplement. I still owe you an update. Chapter 1280. As time passed, the dean of Tanglong Academy, Li Wuxiang, could not help but frown. It was obvious that Fatty Li Yuan and Chen Ritian's strength were getting stronger and stronger. His previous underestimation of them had quietly turned into seriousness. Boom, 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 boom. A terrifying energy wave finally exploded from the arena, indicating that the battle between the two had entered its final stage. Under the influence of the will of slaughter, the two of them seemed to have been soaked in blood as they emitted blood-red rays of light. It was too much for the eyes to take in. Even the majority of the Grandmist realm experts present couldn't help but admit their inferiority. In a first-rate academy, it was not strange for monsters like Fatty Li Yuan and Chen Ritian to have the strength to defeat some of the Grandmist Supremacy Realm disciples. However, to have the strength to surpass most of the Grandmist Supremacy Realm disciples was too heaven-defying. After all, no matter what, they were still geniuses from first-rate academies. But now, the absolute energy waves that Chen Ritian and Li Yuan shot out were completely beyond everyone's imagination. Brother Fatty is awesome. Too awesome. I've long known that Brother Fatty is very strong, but I didn't expect him to be so strong. But damn, Chen Ritian is really strong. He's not at a disadvantage at all. Damn it, I didn't expect Fatty to have hidden so much. Ling Feng also said. He was certain that he could not shake Fatty even if he exposed his identity. Xue Fian, who was expressionless and without any emotion, continued to stare at the Fatty and Chen Ritian who were crazily attacking each other in the ring. She did not say anything, but in her heart, it became clearer that the Fatty was most likely the fated person that her master had mentioned. Only someone who was definitely stronger than her could be her fated one. Otherwise, why would her master take a fancy to him? Originally, Ao Guang and Ling Feng were both possibilities. Because both of them had hidden their true strength, Xue Fian could not determine who was the strongest. However, after Ao Guang revealed his identity as the descendant of the Monkey King, Xue Fian ruled him out. The monkey tribe could not be her fated one. As for Ling Feng, although Xue Fian was a little confused by the title of Young Wind King, after interacting with him for a while, especially after seeing Fatty's true strength, she was more certain of Fatty's identity. Rumble. A terrifying explosion erupted between the two of them. Chen Hao and Chen Ritian retreated at the same time. The moment Chen Ritian stabilized his body, a bright light flashed between his eyebrows. For the first time, he drew his weapon, a sword. Pseudo-immortal artifact? The moment he saw the treasured sword, Chen Hao, who was holding the Overlord's spear horizontally, suddenly twisted his body and stopped the new wave of attacks. That's right, Chen Ritian said proudly. His expression remained cold and emotionless. It seemed that he did not feel anything about using a pseudo-immortal artifact against Chen Hao. It can't be. Fuck, even a pseudo-immortal artifact has appeared. This is not fair. That's right. Although our Daoist Jinxian can't unleash the true power of a pseudo-immortal artifact, it's hard to say for a monster like Chen Ritian. Using a magical artifact to suppress him is not fair to me. In an instant, many of Fatty's supporters voiced out their dissatisfaction. Fuck, you're so arrogant. Why didn't I know about it? Fatty said with a pained expression. It's a gift from the cabinet master when I became his disciple. I know that you want to tie with me, but I want to win. Don't talk to me about fairness. Magical artifact resources are also a form of strength. You know this. Fuck. Are you trying to use my control to order me around? If you do that, I'll have to listen to you. However, I'll never submit to you. Chen Ritian took the lead and said. He had inherited Chen Hao's memories and wisdom. After gaining independent thinking, he was confident that he wouldn't be inferior to his original self. However, the current battle seemed to be evenly matched, but he knew that this was because his original self, Chen Hao, had no intention of winning. Because Chen Hao wanted a tie. The truth was that Chen Hao couldn't lose. Even if he was facing his own 8th anima, he couldn't lose. This was related to the most mysterious fate in the world and the momentum of victory that had been accumulated over many years. He couldn't give up. However, Chen Hao also didn't want his 8th anima, Chen Ritian, to lose. After all, he still hoped that his 8th anima, Chen Ritian, and his original self, Li Yuan, would become famous in the world so that his parents and his master, Han Mei, would know about him. As long as these two names appeared at the same time, his parents and his master would be 100% sure that it was him. It wasn't a coincidence of names. You're rebelling. Fine, today I'll make you obedient. It's just a pseudo-immortal weapon. I've even had a genuine immortal weapon before. Chen Hao said angrily. However, after saying this, Chen Hao frowned slightly. He thought of the old god who had disappeared after his nirvana. He couldn't help but think of the galaxy tunnel in the vast thousand worlds that contained the old god's aura. He also thought of the short but unforgettable experience in the vast thousand worlds. He thought of the woman, Nguyen Tan Lan, who was in the 3rd anima and then the original self after awakening. However, she didn't say a word from the beginning to the end. She had done everything that should have been done. He also thought of the 9 great evildoers he had befriended. I'm looking forward to it. Come on. Chen Ritian stabbed his sword violently, interrupting Chen Hao's inadvertent thoughts. Then come on. Boom. Chi. The corners of the fat man's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a devilish smile. If it was his original self, who knew how many girls would be charmed by him? Unfortunately, on his fat face, it only gave people the feeling of a confident expert smile. Immediately, a fierce light surged in his eyes. He stomped his feet and swung his big buttocks wildly. His body shot out explosively. At the same time, The Overlord spear shook and turned into a sky full of sharp blood-colored spear radiance, heading towards Chen Ritian. Chen Ritian's pupils suddenly shrank. His essence, qi, spirit, true essence, physical strength, and killing intent suddenly poured into the pseudo-immortal weapon sword. In an instant, the sky full of blood-colored radiance gathered and the space shook. A majestic and terrifying pressure seemed to cut through the void, condensing into a heavenly sword that could intimidate heaven and earth and suppress all directions. Strong. It was definitely stronger than everyone, including Chen Hao. Boom, boom, boom. The moment the heavenly sword was formed, the endless spear radiance from the fat man was annihilated under the pressure of the heavenly sword. An unprecedented pressure suddenly enveloped Chen Hao, causing Chen Hao's expression to change. How can it be so strong? Boom. In just an instant, Chen Hao put away the contempt that came from the depths of his heart. He knew that this arrogant eighth anima was probably going to force him to use all his strength today. He felt a little funny, a little angry, a little sad, a little depressed, but at the same time, a little excited. It had been a long time since someone made him fight to his heart's content. Although it was his eighth anima that forced him to this point, his bones were filled with a strong desire to fight. He was still excited. Roar! Boom! The god of slaughter Chen Hao's roar finally erupted. The long-awaited, wholehearted, unparalleled battle intent finally erupted from Chen Hao's body. Chapter 1281. The majestic blood qi was as deep as the sea. The condensed, pure, and vigorous essence, qi, and spirit condensed into a substantial beam of light that shot up into the sky as if it had penetrated the 9 heavens and 10 lands. His physical strength, true core strength, soul strength, and the law of divine ability gushed out along with Chen Hao's long-awaited roar. It was like a rainbow piercing through the sun, intimidating the world. His long hair fluttered in the wind, his fierce eyes, his terrifying pressure, his tyrannical battle intent, and the Overlord spear in his hand formed a scene that made everyone gasp in shock. Tyrannical? No one had expected that when Fatty Li Yuan really erupted, he would produce such a terrifying and shocking momentum. Oh my god, he's too strong. He's simply an invincible existence. This aura makes me wonder if I'm just an ant in front of him. His momentum is monstrous and unstoppable. What a terrifying blood qi, what a powerful essence, qi and spirit. This is momentum, the general momentum of invincibility. Only the belief of invincibility can produce the momentum of a king. The entire square fell into absolute silence after Chen Hao's outburst. After a moment, voices filled with shock and disbelief erupted from various parts of the crowd. Some of them were experts among the disciples of the academy, some of them were teachers present, but no matter who it was, they could not hide the shock in their hearts. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao struck with his Overlord spear. The blood-red spear radiance swept out violently and collided with the heaven sword that Chen Ritian had released with the pseudo-immortal artifact. Rumble! A terrifying fluctuation spread out from the point of collision between the spear radiance and the sword radiance. The void collapsed and the law of Tao was shattered. However, Chen Hao and Chen Ritian, who had a solemn expression, ignored such a terrifying fluctuation and attacked one after another. Clang, 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 clang. Shortly after, the Overlord spear and the pseudo-immortal artifact sword came into close contact with each other, erupting into bright sparks. Everyone was shocked to find that Fatty Li Yuan was not at a disadvantage in the face of Chen Ritian, who had activated the pseudo-immortal artifact sword and was extremely powerful. Instead, he completely suppressed Chen Ritian in terms of momentum. This also allowed everyone to confirm that Fatty Li Yuan's true strength was more terrifying than Chen Ritian's. Even if Chen Ritian won this match, it would not change everyone's opinion because when Chen Ritian chose to use the pseudo-immortal artifact, it was equivalent to him admitting that he was not stronger than Fatty Li Yuan. Otherwise, he would not use the pseudo-immortal artifact to fight. This was something that all cultivators knew, and Chen Ritian had no reason not to understand it. Of the pseudo-immortal artifact sword? A sneer appeared at the corner of Fatty Lee's mouth as he spoke while fighting. However, before he could finish his sentence, Fatty Lee's eyes suddenly focused. He suddenly realized that the sword radiance emitted by Chen Ritian did not completely disappear after colliding with his spear radiance. Instead, it turned into a mysterious rune light that scattered to the left, right, top, bottom, and back of Chen Hao, faintly forming an encirclement with Chen Ritian in front of him. Moreover, as the number of attacks increased, the number of mysterious runes condensed from the sword radiance increased and became more and more complete. I can't defeat you in terms of true strength, but I won't lose to you either. With the divine ability contained in the pseudo-immortal artifact, do you think you can stop my victory? You have the belief of being invincible, so do I. Be careful, every move I make now is the foundation for the final kill. If you can break it, I'll admit defeat. Chen Ritian said coldly, expressionless. For the first time, Chen Hao felt a chill in his heart. At the same time, it was also because of Chen Ritian's words that he realized that the self-awareness and strength of each life of the 9 lives profound technique was indeed not inferior to the original body. This was especially true when it was derived from the peak state. What I have, all the lives I give birth to have, just like the belief of being invincible. How do I subdue the heart? Chen Hao couldn't help but think of the many times mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures to subdue the heart. Whether it was Buddhism or Taoism, the process of cultivation was the process of cultivating the heart. Cultivators had to see their own heart clearly and subdue it. Only those who could subdue the heart could achieve great success. This was also the most difficult thing for cultivators. And now, Chen Hao, who was in the 8th life, was the process of subduing the heart. Subduing the self and defeating the self. The most difficult thing for cultivators to defeat is themselves, Chen Hao thought in his heart. No, today if I can't even defeat myself, how can I reach the peak? Subduing the heart, Chen Hao must do it. Boom. His mind was affected by the 8th life, and Chen Hao felt as if he had fallen into a heart devil. However, as the aura around him grew more and more terrifying, Chen Hao was suddenly awakened. This awakening caused Chen Hao to break out in a cold sweat. At the same time, it was as if he had suddenly gained enlightenment. Even he couldn't have imagined that in the time it took for a spark to fly off of a spark, a sentence from the Buddhist scriptures, he would feel as if he had been enlightened, as if his mind had been opened. Because of this, something that Chen Hao, as well as everyone else present, would never have imagined would happen. Boom! Under countless astonished gazes, Chen Hao's essence, qi, and spirit, which had been temporarily dispirited because of Chen Hao's words, suddenly erupted in an even more terrifying manner. In an instant, an even more terrifying, majestic, and pure essence, qi, and spirit gushed out from the Baihui acupoint on the top of his head. The walls of the arena didn't hinder it in the slightest. It shot straight up into the sky, as if breaking through the 9 heavens, entering the river of stars, and connecting the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Everyone raised their heads in astonishment and looked at the endless void. This rumble. High up in the sky, in the void, Chen Hao's essence, qi, and spirit, which had connected the heavens and the earth, erupted without any pause. In an instant, with the top of Chen Hao's head as the core, it spread out in all directions. The energy of heaven and earth surged madly, forming rolling dark clouds that converged together. Gales rose up and lightning flashed. This scene caused everyone's eyes to widen in shock. How was this possible? How was this possible? How was this possible? Even Chen Hao himself was momentarily stunned at this moment. He didn't expect this to happen at all, but he knew very well what was going to happen. Divine punishment. His realm was already at the peak of the late stage of the Daoist Golden Wonderland. How could there be a divine punishment? To be precise, how could there be a divine punishment here? However, after experiencing countless divine punishment, Chen Hao knew that this was indeed the aura of a divine punishment. Moreover, just from the initial reaction, Chen Hao could confirm that the divine punishment this time was very, very strong. It was even stronger than the divine punishment of the Golden Scale Dragon realm that he had triggered when he was advancing to the Daoist Jingxian realm. However, Chen Hao knew that this was definitely not the divine punishment of advancing to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Firstly, the location was wrong. To advance to the Hongmeng realm, one had to be in the Hongmeng domain. This was a law that existed in all vast thousand domains. Secondly, he had not completed the last step of the prototype of the Hongmeng domain, and he had not activated his aura to trigger the divine punishment. Therefore, this should only be a divine punishment of a small realm. Completed. Chapter 1282. After the heavenly immortal realm was the realm that included the Daoist Golden Wonderland, and it could be said that there was no heavenly tribulation of a minor realm. At this realm, the main source of improvement came from the improvement of one's mental state and comprehension, and it didn't have a strong display in minor realms. In other words, Li Yuan shouldn't have drawn down a minor realm of heavenly tribulation at this moment. Then what would it be? Actions that went against the heavens and triggered the 9 restrictions weren't tolerated by the Heaven Dao, so it drew down heavenly tribulation. In practically an instant, everyone thought of the heavenly tribulation that came from going against the heavens. This was undoubtedly an extremely shocking thing because not only had there been no heavenly tribulation of a minor realm since the Daoist Golden Wonderland, the heaven-defying situation of a cultivator triggering the 9 restrictions was basically impossible. At the Golden Immortal realm, the realm with the strongest plasticity, the flexibility of a cultivator's strength was rather great. Even if it was the same person at the peak of the advanced stage of the Daoist Golden Wonderland, there would be a terrifying gap of 100 times between the beginning and the end, and it wasn't impossible for it to be even greater. Perhaps it was precisely because of this that there had been no heavenly tribulation of a minor realm since the Daoist Golden Wonderland, and it was extremely difficult for cultivators to defy the heavens to the point of causing the Heaven Dao to not tolerate them. It was precisely because of this that Li Yuan had suddenly drawn down heavenly tribulation, and it caused everyone to be astounded. Exactly what sort of monster is this fatty? How strong is he? This vast and pure essence, energy, and spirit linked up the heavens and the earth, and it swept out like a storm above the 9 heavens. The tribulation clouds roiled while violent winds howled furiously, and it resounded through the heavens and the earth. Heavenly tribulation. Chen Hao muttered while his expression carried a trace of shock that couldn't be concealed. After that, his pupils constricted as he gritted his teeth and said in his heart, "Since it's come, then it'll come even more fiercely." Bang! Rumble! 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 Under the numerous astounded and shocked gazes, Li Yuan suddenly spread open his arms and roared towards the sky. Instantly, amidst the roar that was like surging heavenly thunder, an even more vast and terrifying essence, energy, and spirit sprayed out from the top of Li Yuan's head, and it caused an even more terrifying upheaval in the heavens and the earth. Tribulation clouds condensed madly above the 9 heavens. Within the tribulation cloud, snakes of lightning flickered and thunder rumbled. Numerous thick snakes of lightning quickly condensed and emitted a destructive pressure of lightning punishment. So what if I defy the heavenly punishment? Suddenly, Chen Ritian's arrogant voice was followed by streaks of horrifying sword light that tore through the void and appeared before everyone's eyes. At this time, everyone came back to their senses. Fatty Li Yuan was still fighting. Stop! Suddenly, a huge hand tore through the sky and pierced through the arena's barrier, directly crushing Chen Ritian's heavenly sword light. At the same time, Dean Qing Wanxiang's figure appeared in the arena out of thin air. Dean, do you mean? The pavilion master of the Great Pavilion immediately rose into the air and questioned with dissatisfaction. Natural treasures are easy to come by, but the grand heavenly punishment is hard to come by. This is something that is extremely rare even in the great world of Xiandi. Let's call a temporary truce and wait for little Fatty to get through the heavenly punishment before starting the battle again. Of course, as compensation, I have decided that Chen Ritian can continue to stay in the arena. However, he is not allowed to attack or interfere with Li Yuan. Of course, little fatty is not allowed to attack as well. Chen Ritian, what do you think? Thank you. As Chen Ritian spoke, he did not hesitate to put away his pseudo-celestial artifact sword. Then, he turned into a streak of light and approached Fatty Li Yuan. In just a blink of an eye, he was already beside Fatty Li Yuan. It could be said that they were standing side by side. This kid is quite smart. Chen Wanxiang praised Chen Ritian's actions. Obviously, Chen Ritian knew that this was a rare opportunity for him. Fuck. However, at this time, Fatty Chen Hao rolled his eyes at Chen Ritian. Then, he looked at the dean and said, "Dean, why do you have to call a truce? Alright, since you've said so, we'll do as you say. However, I have a request. Can you let Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian in as well? As long as you're willing, of course, there's no problem. I can't wait for you to bring more people in. Unfortunately, I'm afraid ordinary people won't be able to withstand it." The dean, Cheng Wanxiang, was stunned for a moment before a smile appeared on his face. At the same time, he opened the enchantment of the arena. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian looked at each other before they leaped up. Then, they arrived beside Fatty Li. The majestic and terrifying aura of the heavenly punishment instantly pressured the three of them. This was only when the tribulation cloud was formed. How powerful would it be when the heavenly punishment was unleashed? However, although the three of them were shocked, they were not afraid. On the contrary, they knew very well that this was a rare opportunity for them to hone their skills. Move aside. Shameless guy, you want to defeat me with a pseudo-celestial artifact? Don't you feel ashamed? To think that you're ranked first. But Ao Guang looked at Chen Ritian next to him and sneered. What is a loser like you know? Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and even Xue Fian did not expect Chen Ritian to turn his head to look at Ao Guang and refute. If you don't use it, it'll only be a draw. If you use it, you'll definitely win. Only an idiot wouldn't use it. Idiot, move aside. Ao Guang was directly stunned by the spit. Ling Feng and Xue Fian also frowned. Obviously, Chen Ritian was right. If they were in Ao Guang's shoes, they would definitely do the same. Old Cheng, I'm leaving first. You're leaving already? Play for a few more days, what's the rush? I suddenly remembered that I have something to take care of. That's it, goodbye. Alright then, see you in half a year. I won't send you off. Look after these little guys, don't let anything happen to them. Fuck. You don't have to send me off. No one noticed Li Wuxiang, the dean of the Tanglong Academy, leaving without any face. He did not want to stay a moment longer. As someone who cared about his reputation, he really did not want to continue admiring Cheng Wanxiang's narcissism. Damn it, he knew about Fatty Li's situation, yet he kept asking him how he was doing. What could he do? Praise him? Dream on. However, he couldn't continue to act cool and say that it was sloppy or whatever. If it was still sloppy, how many people in the Immortal Emperor Great Thousand Worlds weren't sloppy? If he was too pretentious, he would be struck by lightning. 3 wins in a row. No, this time I have to break the record no matter what. I have to achieve 4 wins in a row and slap Cheng Wanxiang's face as hard as I can. I have to go back and prepare, no matter the cost, damn it. Li Wuxiang thought fiercely. He directly tore open the void and flashed away. Although he also wanted to see Fatty Li Yuan trigger divine punishment, he really could not stand Cheng Wanxiang's face, so he could only leave. Little did he know that it was because of this departure that he greatly underestimated Fatty Li Yuan, Chen Ritian, Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and the others' improvement because of divine punishment. Chapter 1283. The terrifying thunderbolt finally came crashing down from the 9th heaven. It was extremely majestic and terrifying. Just the sudden increase in pressure made the surrounding cultivators aghast. Those with weaker cultivation had to quickly retreat to a safe distance. It was obvious how powerful the pressure was, not to mention the power of the lightning punishment. Chen Hao and the rest who were in the ring bore the brunt of it. Of course, they had to bear the brunt of it. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and even Chen Ritian felt the increasingly terrifying pressure. All of them had a solemn look on their faces as they gathered their energy to their peak. Although there was a difference between the heavenly punishment from those who had surpassed the 9 limits and the heavenly punishment from those who had broken through, the stronger the cultivator was, the stronger the heavenly punishment would be. It was an indisputable fact that the stronger the cultivator was, the stronger the heavenly punishment would be. This gave everyone a better understanding of Fatty's strength. On the other hand, the Fatty looked at the descending lightning calmly. There was no sadness, no joy, and no worry on his face. His deep, pitch-black eyes didn't have the slightest ripple. Only the essence, energy, and spirit gushing out from the top of his head became more and more condensed and pure. Boom! Rumble! When the first lightning covered Fatty and the rest in endless lightning, the tribulation cloud suddenly surged wildly. An even more terrifying lightning burst out, turning into an endless lightning purgatory that came crashing down. This is too terrifying. The rapid increase in the heavenly punishment's power made everyone exclaim in shock. Come on! Fatty suddenly raised his head to look at the sky. His glabella shone brightly. He opened his arms and allowed the endless lightning to strike his body. Crack! Bang bang bang! The terrifying explosion exploded on Chen Hao's body. Obvious cracks and wounds appeared on Fatty's exposed skin. He was resisting the heavenly punishment head-on. Although Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and Chen Ritian's heaven's punishment was slightly weaker than Chen Hao's heaven's punishment, they did not have it any easier than Fatty. Almost at the instant when the lightning struck them, they fell into an extremely terrifying heaven's punishment that targeted their souls and bodies. A few seconds later, Ling Feng, who had been blasted black by the lightning, was the first to spit out a mouthful of blood. However, Ling Feng only snorted coldly and did not give up on resisting the heavenly punishment. On the other hand, Ao Guang, who was born with the Monkey King's true undying bloodline, and Xue Fian, who had a strong physical body, were stronger than Ling Feng. As for Chen Hao, his physical body and soul were on par with Chen Hao. Crack! Rumble! What a strange divine punishment. Following the bombardment of the endless lightning purgatory, what shocked some of the experts present was that the might of the heavenly punishment had actually increased by several times, instead of the usual gradual increase. Under such circumstances, the cultivators who were enduring the heavenly punishment were simply unable to make the correct judgment of their limits. In other words, they might be able to withstand it easily a moment ago, but in the next moment, they might be annihilated by the heavenly punishment that had suddenly increased by several times. Such a continuous and strange increase in strength shocked Ling Feng, Ao Guang, Xue Fian, and Chen Ritian. They did not know if they should continue to persevere. The intermittent and sudden increase in strength made it impossible for them to estimate how strong the next increase would be, and whether they could withstand it or not. If they clenched their teeth and persevered, it was very likely that they would be annihilated by the heavenly punishment before they could even resist it. Furthermore, they were unable to determine how long the heavenly punishment would last and how strong it would be in the end. Logically speaking, the heavenly punishment that was caused by defying the heavens would usually last for a short period of time, and there would only be one wave. However, when the heavenly punishment was formed, it showed that it was different. Just by looking at the situation of the tribulation cloud, one could tell that it would not end in a short period of time. Huff, huff, huff. The range of the heavenly fluctuation was still increasing crazily. The heavenly spiritual chi that was gathered by the tribulation cloud did not decrease in the slightest. Instead, it became denser and denser as time passed. Crack, crack. Endless thunderbolts poured down crazily from the tribulation cloud and bombarded the figures in the arena. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian looked at each other when they saw that the pressure above the 9 heavens was about to soar again. Their eyes were filled with worry as they looked at the fatty in their midst. The fat figure was currently covered in lightning arcs. It was pitch black and covered in cracks, as if it was in danger of collapsing at any moment. This situation made the three of them understand that as the initiator of the heavenly punishment, the power of the heavenly punishment that the fat man had to endure would definitely be much stronger than theirs. Even if they were very close to him, they could not change this fact. Of course, the most important and most worrying point was that the fat man's resistance to the heavenly punishment was much more thorough than theirs. The reason was that Fatty had completely fallen into the illusion of the heavenly punishment in less than a minute. Or it could be said that he had deliberately immersed himself in it and entered a state of wholehearted comprehension, completely throwing the bombardment of the heavenly punishment to the back of his mind. This was a very crazy behavior. It was so crazy that Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian did not dare to try it. However, Chen Ritian, who was determined to compete with Fatty, also immersed himself in the state of thoughtless tranquility, unwilling to be outdone. You guys still want to persist? Ling Feng was the first to speak up. Fatty, this heavenly punishment is really strange. It's not gradual and can't be controlled. If you feel that it's enough, then leave, lest your body and soul are destroyed. That's true. However, I was born with the true undying bloodline of the Monkey King, so I'm not afraid. If the two of you can't do it, then don't persist. This is not the time to be impulsive. Ao Guang said seriously. What are you talking about? I'm just reminding you and Fian. Do you think I won't dare to persist? I won't hide it from you guys. Heavenly punishments that are even stronger than this, and even more perverse pressure, this big brother has endured many times. Don't look at how miserable I look on the surface. If you want to take my life, it's still too early. Ling Fengping glanced at Ao Guang and said proudly. A long time ago, my body became a weapon. Although this heavenly punishment is strange, it is undoubtedly the best opportunity for me to refine my body. It's very difficult to take my life. Xue Fian said calmly. She, who was resisting the heavenly punishment, was naturally shining with faint runes. Including Chen Hao and Chen Ritian, among the five of them, Xue Fian seemed to be the most relaxed. Then we'll persist until the end. Ao Guang said with a slight headache. Damn it, each one is more arrogant than the other. Ao Guang cursed in his heart. Originally, he was worried about the safety of everyone. As the one who triggered the heavenly punishment, Fatty had no choice. On the other hand, Xue Fian and Ling Feng could withdraw from the competition. However, he did not expect that the two of them would not appreciate it, especially Ling Feng. His words had the intention of competing for supremacy, which made Ao Guang very unhappy. Since that was the case, then let's compete. Chapter 1284. Every few minutes, the terrifying thunderbolts would suddenly increase in intensity. In less than half an hour, Chen Hao and the others were in a terrible state. Even Xue Fian, whose body had reached the level of perfection, was no exception. However, the five of them did not give up. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian gritted their teeth and persevered, comprehending and enduring. Fatty and Chen Ritian were still in the state of thoughtless tranquility, disregarding life and death. Of course, this could also be understood as their absolute confidence. Will the dean and the others really be all right? In the void, the teachers of the Great Transformation Pavilion, True Martial Pavilion, and other pavilions had unknowingly arrived at the dean's side. The pavilion master of the True Martial Pavilion was worried for Fatty and the others. He wanted to stop Ling Feng, Ao Guang, and Xue Fian from continuing, but was stopped by the dean. Don't worry, Ao Guang is the descendant of the Monkey King. He's not that weak. It's even more impossible for him to die under the heavenly punishment triggered by Fatty's Daoist Golden Wonderland. Ling Feng is not as simple as he looks. I can feel that his state of mind is not inferior to Chen Ritian and Fatty's. He's even stronger than Ao Guang and Xue Fian. I'm sure that this kid's experience is beyond our imagination. As for Xue Fian, as her only direct disciple, do you think she's as simple as she looks? Don't forget that she's disguised her appearance and aura now. This? Dean is right, but please be careful, Dean. Don't let any accidents happen. Mo Shilin naturally thought of what the dean thought, but this heavenly punishment was too strange and irregular. It was better to be safe than sorry. It was not easy for the true martial pavilion to recruit such monstrous geniuses. It would be a pity if they died under the heavenly punishment. Don't worry, I've already integrated a strand of my consciousness into their bodies. If necessary, I'll make a move. Dean Cheng Wanxiang narrowed his eyes and said schemingly, "Boom. Chi 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 chi." After another 10 minutes, the fatty, who was immersed in the state of thoughtless tranquility, suddenly trembled violently. Immediately, a mysterious light surged out from his body and spread between heaven and earth. In an instant, the tribulation clouds above the 9 heavens surged even more violently. The speed at which the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered suddenly increased by more than 10 times in an instant. What? This little fatty actually entered the state of epiphany that is hard to come by. Amazing, amazing, truly amazing, boom. Just as everyone was exclaiming that Fatty had actually entered the state of epiphany that all cultivators dreamed of when he was enduring the heavenly punishment, Chen Ritian, who was not far away from Fatty and was also immersed in the state of thoughtless tranquility, suddenly trembled violently. It can't be! Soon after, the already shocked crowd was completely dumbfounded. Epiphany met with epiphany. In just a few seconds, Chen Ritian had also entered a state of epiphany. However, this was still not the most shocking thing. What truly shocked everyone was that the moment Chen Ritian entered a state of epiphany, his essence, energy, and spirit suddenly became 10 times, no, 100 times denser. It soared into the sky and pierced through the clouds. Huff, huff. At this moment, a new wave of heaven and earth fluctuations appeared between heaven and earth, clearly telling everyone that another heavenly punishment was beginning to condense. Chen Ritian actually triggered heavenly punishment. Not good. Chi. It was also at this moment that the expression of Dean Cheng Wanxiang, who had been fully focused and waiting for battle, changed. Immediately, he opened his hand and suddenly made a move, directly pulling Ao Guang, Xue Fian, and Ling Feng out of the endless lightning purgatory. The 3 of them, who were already heavily injured but were still holding on, heaved a sigh of relief the moment they came out. They were so shocked that they broke out in a cold sweat. They really did not expect such a terrifying scene to occur. Heavenly punishment met heavenly punishment stacked on top of each other. The sudden increase in the pressure of the heavenly punishment completely exceeded their imagination. It directly imprisoned the 3 of them, making it impossible for them to escape from the core of the heavenly punishment. Fortunately, the dean acted at this critical moment. Otherwise, when the new lightning descended, they would have been directly annihilated. Dean, fatty bro. Ao Guang looked directly at the dean after his body relaxed and said nervously, "Don't worry, little fatty, and Chen Ritian will be fine for the time being. I have to say, these 2 guys are really monsters. It's hard to tell which one is better." The dean exclaimed, "That's true. I really didn't expect that the 2 of them would enter a state of epiphany without regard for life and death. What's even more unbelievable is that Chen Ritian also triggered heavenly punishment at this time, causing heavenly punishment to superimpose." That's right, 2 perverts," several teachers exclaimed. "Dean, what should we do? Don't let any accidents happen." Mo Shilin said worriedly. Fatty and Chen Ritian had already triggered heavenly punishment because they defied the heavens. One of them triggering heavenly punishment was enough to make him suffer, but both of them triggered it at the same time, causing heavenly punishment to superimpose. That was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. The 2 of them might not be able to withstand it. It's fine for the time being. They're both in a state of epiphany now, so it's best not to disturb them. If they really can't handle it, I'll immediately make a move to separate them." The dean said. "Dean, if you want to separate them, then move Li Yuan. Don't touch my disciple, Chen Ritian." The pavilion master of large pavilions suddenly said, "What do you mean? Why should I move Li Yuan and not Chen Ritian?" Mo Shilin immediately retorted. Who didn't know that if the dean moved someone, it would mean interrupting their epiphany? "Why should I? Because my disciple is ranked first. He's destined to be the chief disciple of Large Pavilion's Daoist Golden Wonderland. Any loss would be a loss to Large Pavilion. What a joke. Chen Ritian isn't even the chief disciple yet. Even if the outcome is decided, the winner would be Li Yuan. Don't forget, your disciple said before that he couldn't defeat Li Yuan without using the pseudo-celestial artifact. Alright, what are you arguing about? It's not up to you to decide who to move. Similarly, it's not up to me to decide. I'll move whoever can't withstand it first. At the same time, this will be the result of the competition. If both of them can withstand it to the end, it'll be considered a draw. Within 10 years, the two of them can't duel or challenge each other. After 10 years, when their contribution points reach 0, they can officially duel. That'll be fairer. Mo Shilin was slightly grateful. However, what made the pavilion master of Large Pavilion angry was that the dean, Chen Wanxiang, had said so. Obviously, Chen Wanxiang was against Chen Ritian using the pseudo-celestial artifact to duel with Fatty. Although it didn't violate the rules, it was unacceptable for Fatty to lose because of this. As the dean, he had to take care of the feelings of a monstrous genius like Fatty. Of course, even if Chen Ritian was dissatisfied with his decision, it was nothing. It was more serious than letting a monstrous genius lose the competition. More importantly, the dean knew that the pavilion master of Large Pavilion had given Chen Ritian the pseudo-celestial artifact with this intention. This wasn't what Chen Wanxiang wanted to see. Especially at this moment, when a strand of his mind had merged into the bodies of the two of them, he could clearly feel that Fatty was slightly better than Chen Ritian in all aspects. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.